Welcome to the Midweek Mailbag, your Pride of Detroit midweek podcast where we answer all of your Detroit Lions questions. It is the bye-week edition. Your Detroit Lions are 3-1, just as I predicted through 4 games. Is that what you were at? 3-1 through 4?
Oh yeah.
Right on track here. But my name is Jeremy Reisman. I'm the producer over at Pride of Detroit. You can find me at Detroit Online. That other voice you heard is, of course, the managing editor of Pride of Detroit, is the machine, is at Erik Schlitt on Twitter. Erik Schlitt. Erik, how we doing?
I'm doing well. I feel like it's been a little while since I've been on the airwaves because we have been, most of my stuff over the last 10 days has been PODD guys only, right?
Yeah.
So, a couple of post games, and then last week's mailbag was behind the scenes there as well. So I'm happy to be back on the stream and interacting.
Yeah, I mean that's always a good reminder. If you want more Erik Schlitt in your life, you can subscribe to Pride of Detroit Direct by going to prideofdetroit.com/subscribe. But we're not here to pitch premium subscriptions. We're here to talk Lions football and answer any and all of your questions here. And as always, you can submit them to us via Twitter using the hashtag AskPOD, or you can just look for our call for it, typically Tuesday mornings. Wednesday morning in this instance because of the Monday night game. But anyways, let's get to it. Our first question comes from our good friend Ash. Asks, what went wrong with the run defense in the second half against the Seahawks? Is it as simple as being tired and Seattle going more outside runs, or is there something more worrying going on, i.e. the secret sauce being found out? And what can we do to fix the underlying problems? Now, I did a little bit of research on this one ahead of time.
Okay. So
I can take my take on it, and if you have a different take on it, go for it. First of all, I think we have to put the performance into context. Kenneth Walker had 80 rushing yards in this game on, I want to say, 12 carries. Of those 80 yards, 72 of them came on 3 rushes. That means the other 9 rushes produced 8 yards.
Yeah, that seems good.
So that's an important distinction to start. That the Lions, if you're talking about overall performance, this didn't seem like a systemic issue. It was just individual plays in which they got screwed up. The first one, you and I pointed out immediately. It was very clear what happened in that Kenneth Walker was running to the outside. He took one step inside. Terion and Kirby both filled that gap, leaving the outside wide open. And Kenneth Walker is athletic enough of a back to take advantage of that and turn it into a 20-something yard gain.
Yeah.
The next one was kind of an outside run where Alex Anzalone had a clean shot at him after 3 or 4 yards. Mm-hmm. He breaks that tackle. He breaks a Jack Campbell tackle. He breaks a Brandon Joseph tackle. Turns into a 20-yard gain. And the last one was the cutback touchdown, the 20-yard touchdown, which, again, Alex Anzalone right in the gap that he was supposed to be. And just kind of a couple of minor errors from different players left a cutback lane. DJ Reader falls down on the play after getting double teamed. I think Kirby Joseph and Ben Neiman kind of both crashed inside, hoping to take away the middle of the field, leaving that cutback lane outside. And then you have Carlton Davis, I think, taking the bad angle and missing the tackle. So you put that all together, and is there an underlying theme? I don't think so. I mean, to me, it was just MA's here, missed tackles there. I think you can point a little bit of blame into the secondary and their run fits in general because, again, they did most of the damage on the outside. And if you want to expand beyond those 3 plays, Charbonnet had a 12-yard run up the middle that was a response. Brandon Joseph missed a tackle. You'd think probably Brian Branch makes that play if he's in the game. And then a couple Geno Smith scrambles add on top of that. On both instances that he scrambled for 10-plus yards, I think it was Aiden Hutchinson who lost a little bit of contain, kind of went too deep into the pocket, left a rush lane. I don't know. I look at that game and I'm like, 1, Kenneth Walker is really freaking good. 2, your defensive backs probably could have been a little bit better in their run fits. Otherwise, I don't have any complaints. I do understand that offenses in general have found a little bit more success on this defense running on the perimeter. but it doesn't seem systemic to me. It doesn't seem like it's more execution than anything, and it involves your corners, who in general I think that plays to their strengths. Like, we know how much the Lions value corners who are fearless in the run game, and they have that. And so one bad game that consisted of like 2 or 3 bad plays, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I think I want to reiterate the fact that Kenneth Walker is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, he's a terrific back. He has been a terrific back for a while now. And I think that plays a big factor. As lopsided as the rushing attempts were, the running game is an important factor in the Seahawks offense, and they know how to utilize it properly, and they utilized it well. They picked their moments, and they found success when they did. But I'm going to be honest, I didn't even think this was a question that would have come up today. So, like, I didn't even realize that they had breached 100 yards. Like, honestly, because yes, they had a couple of big plays, which is a little unusual, but I thought for the most part they were kind of contained and wrapped up. And so, I guess viewing it with the eye and not like paying attention to the stats, I didn't even realize they had gained as much as they had. So, so no, from the eye test for me, I didn't think there was anything to be concerned about. And so I'm not really worried about anything moving forward either.
But I can see why fans might get up.
Look at the box score,
right? Like, and you felt it too in the first half. There was nothing.
Sure,
they had 4 rushes for 5 yards or something like that, and then in the second
half,
suddenly Kenneth Walker was taking over. Turns out Kenneth Walker was taking over because he had 2. I mean, part of it is like he had 2 1-yard touchdown runs, which wasn't anything special that he did, and then he had those 3 explosive runs that I just kind of ran through, and so. I don't know. I think a lot of it is you tip your hat to Kenneth Walker for just being a fantastic running back. And I'm not concerned moving forward. I think in general the Lions' strength of their entire team is still probably going to be their run defense, and nothing that happened on Monday night was going to change my mind from that.
Yeah, I kind of gave the defense a little bit of leeway for a couple of reasons, just in general, beyond, I mean, run game included as part of it. But you're working in a new Sam, and so that's a part of the edge contain that you got to figure out. And so I didn't have high expectations for them to be able to have it like fixed. I thought they were going to put a Band-Aid on the position and just get to the bye and then kind of reassess. And it's kind of my stance hasn't really changed that. I'm still expecting them to kind of figure things out moving forward. And then missing Brian Branch, who we've consistently talked about being arguably the best tackler on the team, certainly plays a factor, especially when you use your safety so much in coming downhill to stop the run. And to go back to that Terion losing contain. That's a big component of how the Lions operate, and not every team operates like that. But the corners absolutely have to hit the edge, and if they don't, the Lions will get gashed on the outside because they don't filter their help outside. They filter their help inside. That's why the corners set the edge, filter help inside, and that's one of the reasons they're really good at it. And so when you lose that contain, you're a lot more susceptible to big runs that are noticeable because you don't have the help. Now you're putting your help in bad angles. And so, simple thing, it sounds, just like easy, but it was, they dipped in when they really shouldn't have. If Arnold would have just kind of stayed home, I think it would have been a different story on that play.
Yeah, and for our live audience, we'll take a look at some of those plays during the break, which is just another reminder that if you want the full experience, check this out. Check out our live show on Twitch or YouTube, or you can catch the replays there too. But also listen on the podcast. Do everything. Watch us in every format you possibly can. Next question here comes from our friend Between the Numbers, Anthony. Asked, first quarter of season review. In terms of ordered priority, has the contract re-signing status this offseason changed? For example, has re-signing Levi become a bigger priority, while maybe Barnes with his injury becomes a bigger question? There are other guys that we should probably talk about too, like Ali McNeil, Carlton Davis.
Sure.
But let's start with those two. Like, is Levi now kind of a higher priority re-signing just because of how well he's played through a quarter of the game?
Yeah, I think you have to, right? Like, I think you have to look at him as a guy that you want to bring back. Um, and I don't know if like I'm at a stage where I'm saying, oh, he's definitely more important than Barnes, or Barnes, is lower now because of the injury. I still think Barnes is incredibly valuable to them.
Yeah.
And if you started looking at the draft, or you started looking at like college football, and you're saying like, who's a guy that can replace Barnes' production as an edge rusher plus a draft guy? There's not that many guys. Like, it's just not. Like most guys that are his size, or maybe a little bit bigger, like kind of like they're almost all just pass rush, pass rush, pass rush, because that's where they find success. So finding a guy who can do that little bit of both is really unique in this scheme that they run. And so I do think Barnes is an important cog. And, in my mind, they're both starters. Levi could start at a couple of different spots depending on the scheme, whereas Barnes has kind of got his Sam starting role, even though it's maybe only a 50% starting role. He's still starting, right? And so like they're both kind of like de facto starters for me, so that they both are going to carry the same type of weight. Aleem is still my top priority. Yep. I still think Aleem is he's so unique and he's so foundational that I would put him at the top. But I do think Levi and Barnes are probably, 2A, 2B type of thing. And there's other guys that I like, but I think those three that Anthony named make a lot of sense as the top guys.
I think Carlton Davis has worked his way into that conversation too.
Yeah, certainly. The
penalties are what they are. But he plays the
I'm
position.
Not worried about that.
He plays the position like the Lions want him to. I think it wasn't his best in terms of run defense in this past game, but again, part of that is Kenneth Walker being an absolute monster. But he's willing. Like he has been really good in run defense prior to, I think, this game. Plus, he's going up against number one receivers, and the stats don't look great necessarily, but I think you go out there and watch how he's playing, and he's battling. He's there to make plays. He had 3 or 4 penalties on Monday night, but he also had 3 pass breakups. And I think
fumble recovery too,
and a very important fumble recovery and return. You want that ratio to be a little bit better in the Lions' favor. But when's the last time a Lions defensive back not named Brian Branch or Kirby Joseph had 3 pass defenses in a game? Like, did it ever happen with the last year's group of corners?
Well, not
I'd be surprised. Yeah. It's been a while. I mean, it's been since probably the Darius Slay days, or maybe you had like one really good day of
Amani. Maybe had that
right.
one really good year. You could maybe it could have happened.
But I think Carlton Davis is going to finish this season with at least 15 pass breakups. Like that's a really good number, and I think that's very emblematic of the kind of play they're getting from him, in addition to his efforts in the run game. Barnes is an interesting one for me because I think a lot about his future might be told on the next 3 or 4 weeks without him.
Sure.
Can someone step up and fill that role? We'll see. I mean, it was very much a linebacker by committee last week with Anzalone, Neiman.
Neiman did not look good, by the way.
Neiman did not look great.
Nowaski's intriguing.
Nowaski's
intriguing.
Yeah.
3 pressures on 8 snaps.
Right.
Okay. I'm interested.
Because I think Barnes is like, he strikes me as a jack of all trades, master of none. Like he's
okay.
Which is good. Like,
yes.
You need a jack of all trades in that
Yes.
specific role. But is he a great pass rusher? No. Is he fantastic in dropping into coverage? Not really.
He's superior against the run, though, which is really what they love.
He is really good against the run, and that is obviously very important to what they do. But like if a guy like Nowaski can step up in the next 3 weeks, like suddenly it becomes an interesting conversation. And we know all these guys are going to get a shot. We know this team loves the linebackers that they have, and so it almost becomes a question of, would you rather have the guys that you really, really like, or would you rather have a deep bench like you currently have? And you can strike a balance between the two a little bit, but eventually you're going to have to pay some of these guys.
You got to draft well, right? Like it's a good thing. That's where Brad Holmes is, good at
Yeah.
that. Um, I do think Nowaski is very interesting because if you look at Nowaski's college tape, he's Mike, Sam, slot. Like he can do a lot of different
Right.
things, and he did it at a lower level, but the skill set, the experience is kind of there. Real interesting. Um, their Lions have 6 starters that are pending free agents this upcoming year. 3 of them are part-time starters, including Derek Barnes and Levi and Marcus Davenport.
Sure.
All, and Marcus, I think Marcus's being season ending is really going to just tank his stock, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's going to be
could bring
really
him
hard
back for
him.
2 to 3
Sure.
million, like something like that.
Yeah. All incentives, like
Yeah.
a whole base contract.
It's gonna
all
drive
incentives.
Lions fans nuts that they're gonna
Yeah.
do it, but they probably will, right?
Yeah, they give him 1 million base, all incentive laden
Yeah.
contract. You can make up to 10 million, but Davenport's in that conversation. The 6th guy that we haven't talked about is Kevin Zeitler. And Zeitler's a unique cat because he's like 35. I know he's not 35, but it feels like he's like getting he's getting up there in age. But
he's 34.
He has not. Okay, 34. There you go. I knew he was close. But Zeitler has not really slowed down.
Yeah.
Like his run game is sensational. Helps to have an all-pro on your left and an all-pro on your right, but certainly he is exactly what they want for that right guard role.
Yep.
A big bully. And that's fantastic. And he's doing it. What was the tweet you put out earlier? Is he 4th in PFF?
I think he's 4th among guards, yeah.
All right. That's ridiculous, right? Like at 34 years old. Okay. I'm not talking about giving him like a 3-year contract or even 2-year, but like a 1-year contract.
Exactly what you just gave him. Like you just give him the exact same contract. Throw it on the Xerox.
Yeah. Whatever. Well, yeah.
Does Xerox machines still exist? Is that a thing?
I don't think so. But
the DocuSign. Just copy the DocuSign. There we
go. But I think Zeitler is right there. And I might even prioritize Zeitler over a Davenport, even though I think Davenport showed you the value of having a player who can do a variety of different things opposite Hutchinson. I also think you can just take that guy in the first round, right?
Well,
like you can go after that.
Let's not forget Pascal. Like Pascal has an entire season to prove himself, and he's off to a pretty darn good start. He's filled in twice now for Davenport, and Dan Campbell just said this is the best game he's had this season. So
certainly, but you need, in my opinion, you need that kind of hybrid guy in addition to a Josh Pascal, and then to have Levi in that mix as well. It's really the Levi, Pascal, and then that other fluid edge guy. It just makes your defense like just so much more dynamic. They're still going to make it work, right?
But you know who you've forgotten?
What's that?
You've forgotten you've forgotten John Kaminsky. How dare
he's
you?
in that same role. Yeah, I know. Nobody talks about him. I mean, that's why. But Kaminsky is a guy they could bring back too. Like, really, do you need 3 hybrid defensive linemen that can play defensive tackle and defensive end? Probably not. But if you have 3, great.
Yeah,
that's all the better. But only having 6 starters that you really have to like look at and say, hey, I got to get this guy in long term, and I can 1 year this guy, I can incentive this guy. They're still in a really good spot to kind of like keep. That's why so many people like this team long term. Right. Because they have all their core pieces, their ancillary pieces are still like attainable, and you're going to go into the draft and you're going to have picks 32 and 64 and maybe the potential to move up, and because that's what Holmes likes to do, and who knows what you can do with it.
And while we're talking about handing out money next offseason, two very large extensions also looming in Aiden Hutchinson and Kirby Joseph, 2 guys that become eligible for
and JMO.
But I think you probably.
But you're not gonna extend JMO. Yeah. No. I'm with you. Yeah. The money's not right to do a deal with JMO, even if he breaks out kind of like he's in the midst of doing, right? Like if he goes over 1,000, awesome, good job. Let's see it again. and then we'll give you that tier of pay. But
Yeah.
you guys see a little bit more.
All right. One more question we're going to sneak in here before we go to break here. Just a very kind of quick technical one from Jeff Hooker, with a really good question, because I think you and I were actually puzzled in the moment as well. It says, why wasn't the play called forward progress when Goff extended the ball at the 2-minute warning? He's talking about the safety play.
Yeah, great call. No.
Yeah, I went into the rule book looked to see if I could find the definition of forward progress, and I guess my best guess, the interpretation of the rule, and it makes a lot of sense, is that Goff pulled the ball back on his own. It wasn't forward progress that pushed the ball back; it was him pulling it back on his own. And
Didn't
so
the
when
ball
his knee
touch
was
the ground,
down, I don't believe so.
Okay.
So when his knee hit the ground and he was officially down, the ball was before the goal line. And it's a little bit silly, and it kind of shows you how nuanced the rule book is, because let's say he was on the other side of the goal line. Let's say he was at the opponent's 1-yard line and reaching the ball over. As soon as that ball crosses the plane, the play is over. It's a touchdown. Even if he pulls it back and his knee is down, because once that ball crosses the plane, it's a dead play. It's over. But it doesn't work that way when you're going in the opposite direction, when you're getting out of the end zone. The play is over when your knee gets down, and when his knee was down, the ball was not completely across the line of scrimmage, or the goal line there. So that's my interpretation of the rules based on what I read the rule book, based on what I know to be true rewatching the play. It's weird, it's nuanced, it's a little bit silly. It obviously didn't end up really mattering in this game, but listen, I think we learned, a lot of Lions fans learned a couple new rules on Monday night, which always seems to happen when you play the Seahawks, whether it's the batted ball or whatever. But the other one being the horse collar rule that the fans at Ford Field didn't seem to grasp, even after a very good explanation from the ref.
Yes.
But you can horse collar inside the tackle, which is I think I knew that one actually. That was a good reminder of it though, that I'd forgotten.
I do want to do follow up on you saying that it didn't matter that he got safetied, because before that play even happened, we were already talking about, should they just take a safety on the punt?
Yep.
Just to give them more room to kick the ball off and pin Seattle deep anyways. So,
and that's exactly what happened, right? Like they had a good kick return,
right.
but it was called back to there was a holding on it.
Right. It was I think, so it was just one play earlier than what we were speculating on anyways.
Yeah, it basically saved Seattle a timeout.
Yeah. I personally would have preferred that the ball just had stayed out. Like, I thought it hit the ground, so I thought it should have been at the half-yard line or whatever, inch line. And then I would have let Jack Fox still be Jack Fox, but it's okay. Like, in that situation, you're still getting a similar result, and you're getting better field position, and 2 points when you're already up that much was pretty insignificant. So in this scenario, we're very calm about this. In another scenario, maybe we not as much.
Losing our mind.
Yeah, but in this scenario, you're all right.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, more of your Detroit Lions questions as we head off into the bye, sitting at a comfy 3-1. We will be right back. Okay, let's hang out for a little bit. A lot of fun conversation happening in the chat, including maybe my favorite chat from Brett Whitefield, our good friend, who just says, Erik, the 2024 dunk contest winner.
Is it dunked on his old place of business?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, listen. Okay, so we don't need to rehash the entire thing, but I think it's an interesting conversation that sprouted from the Monday night game, which is actually Geno Smith had a better game than Jared Goff, which is an interesting take. I'll say this. Jared Goff's day was easier, right? He wasn't playing from behind the entire game. He had good pass protection most of the game. He had a run game that was established the entire game.
Yeah.
But he was perfect. Like, and it wasn't just like, I think one of the first things I noticed when I went back and watched every single pass that he made is that he was actually very good in the pocket. It's those subtle movements that he has. It's not like escaping and running out. It's like it's just a slight step here, a slight step there to give him enough room to uncork some of these 15-yard down the field throws.
If you want to pull a clip,
let's do it.
The end zone clip of the JMO 70-yard touchdown.
Yes, that is 100% one of them.
Because they blitzed on that, and he just a subtle shift to his left, and it gave him the space in the pocket.
Yep,
it's a good clip to illustrate, because it's not just the spin move that he did to, like, again to JMO,
right?
But the that one was slick. But man, he had a great pocket, and he gets a great pocket. Like, here's the thing: you can give qualifiers to anything. Like, oh, Goff had a better offensive line, so he should have played well. So of course he played better. At some point, you just have to give the man his flowers and say he was better. Like, he didn't throw the ball to a defensive tackle and Aleem get pissed because the ball was he thought the ball was going to be faster, and that's why he didn't get the interception, and he was mad about it. Like, all right, this is a good one. He will shift to his left when the pressure comes.
There we go. You don't need to see my face twice. Oh, okay. It reverted back to. We'll watch this angle first, because who doesn't want to watch this play twice?
Yeah, you can still see it.
Yep. Just it's that back step for a second there. By the way, like, the fact that there is no defender here and it's only Amon-Ra waving him on is hilarious to me. Do we get a look at the dunk from this angle?
No, I think
Son
they
of
cut it off.
All right, here we go.
You can see it a lot better here.
We're gonna slow.
So they blitz the safety. And they drop their corners. See, shift left. Safety. Looks like it's a play action right to his right. So he just drops back.
Just a little shift, just a little subtle shift right there. One step, got enough room.
But I mean, look at where his pocket is there. Yeah.
Right. Because Glasgow's getting a little beat.
Yep.
Aushika's holding up actually pretty good there. Now, he's not quite stepping into the throw. He's a little bit. He's fading away, which is not perfect. But I mean, look at that.
He threw that ball,
placement, dude. Like, just
go back to where he was. Yeah. Go back to right before he throws the ball. And a little bit further. There. Look at where JMO is.
JMO's here.
Like, he knows that he's
and
literally.
This defender is watching him.
Yes. He's like, I'm going to throw it just out of that defender's reach to the hash. And I know if JMO's at that hash, I can throw it. And so it's just hash to hash.
It's an insane throw. An absolutely insane throw.
But that's
especially because like how the ball's on you to be looking right. I mean, they're looking at each other. The defender is literally looking right at him. And to be like, I'm going to throw it right here.
I think this is part of the thing that, like, people don't appreciate when it comes to, like, NFL quarterbacks.
Right.
Quarterback he has not just, even before he gets to the point where he's already in his throwing motion, he has to have it in his mind. I'm going to throw and just pretend like that defender is not even there. And I'm just going to throw it to where I know my guy's going to be. That's really hard to do. Yeah. But these guys do it at such a great level. Look at that thing on a dime. Like, and JMO doesn't have to break stride, which just makes that thing so perfect.
Yep.
Like, if he slows down, he's probably still scoring,
right?
Because Witherspoon is in trouble, and there's no way that linebacker is going to catch him. But it's a perfect route. It was perfectly designed for that, and they had that defense. Just
all right.
Took them to task.
Let's look at some Kenneth Walker runs, because again, like, all you have to do is scroll through here. Minus 1 yard.
Happy show.
Minus 1 yards, 4 yards, 2 yards, 1 yard, 6 yards, -1 yards, 2 yards. Like, they were bottling him up through 2.5 quarters, and then it's 28 yards, -6, 23, 21. And that's it. Literally 4 runs of 5 yards or more.
I do think there was something to what Ash was saying as well about they were kind of gassed because, like,
maybe
they had like some quick runs, if I recall right. Like, or it was like trying to remember exactly the sequence. But I feel like it was like Lions had a quick 3-and-out. Seahawks got on the field. Then the next
Yeah.
time the Lions offense was on the field, it was like that 70-yard play we just showed, and then Seattle was back on the field. And like I felt like Seattle was just like on the field like 3 series in a row with only like a couple of plays, where the defense had a chance to rest, and I think that played a factor in as well, certainly.
So this is the aforementioned one where Kirby and Terion both kind of cut inside and give him the outside lane. You got
Kirby
Neiman
should be
at
inside.
the same. I
This-
think
yeah.
you're probably right. So Neiman actually, I think, does a pretty good job holding the edge here. Does a great job,
Right.
in fact. Like forces him to cut inside. So now you can see
Terion
the lanes
has to
here.
be-
Terion
Yep.
has to make sure he can't get outside. You give
And-
Kirby the lane right
Yep.
here to split the two blockers, and instead
Yep.
jumps
when
inside
Terion jumps in. Yep. Two
It's
guys
over.
in one gap. Yep.
just like that.
Yep.
And that's the only reason this play succeeds at all. Like otherwise, the Lions played it
Correct.
exactly how they want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Kirby makes that tackle.
Yep.
If Terion stays outside, Kirby is there.
It's not an easy tackle. I
And-
mean, listen, this is a really good.
No,
guy,
but like
Kirby
you
didn't
have
do it.
no lane. But like yeah, if Terion goes to his left,
Yep.
there's no lane. He has to out physical
Yep.
Kirby at that point.
Yep. So that's that one. We'll go to this one. This is the one where I think it's just again, it doesn't feel like they got out schemed or anything. It's just Alex Anzalone has to make this open field tackle. So it's going to be run to the top of the screen. Anzalone's right here. Campbell, you can make an argument. This is also Campbell's issue. He gets kind of tossed there where, he doesn't have a great lane now. Anzalone does a good job
but
getting off his block.
Yeah, he's got to get there. He's got to get to that outside, and he does.
Yep.
He gets to the outside.
Just got to make the tackle. Jack doesn't make the tackle. Brandon Joseph doesn't make the tackle. And suddenly you're talking about 20 yards after contact, essentially.
Yeah. Can you go back to the initial stretch?
Yep. You want me to slow-mo it?
It's all right.
We'll go 7-5.
Okay. Right now, your farthest outside guy has to be outside, and then Alex has got to get outside his guy as well.
Yep.
So that you can filter into that safety. And right off the bat, Alex is in trouble. Now, with the guards pulling, you've already got your defensive lineman eating up one of them. So
Yep.
now is that Malcolm? Yeah, Malcolm now has to sprint his butt off to
This
go
guy?
get 57. Yeah.
That's Jack.
Yeah, Malcolm's. Oh, okay. Jack is supposed to go get 57. The hard part is he's got to beat that block to go try and get 57.
And
Alex
he gets tossed.
Yeah,
Like,
and
maybe
Alex
held
has got to
right
be
here.
outside too.
Like you can see, he literally grabs and throws him there. So now he's
Yeah. See, Jack should be going laterally at this point
Yep.
instead of trying to go up.
yep.
And he probably can go laterally smoother if Alex is on the outside of his guy instead of inside.
Yeah. And
If he makes
honestly,
that cut up.
Alex doesn't make the tackle here, but he slows him down.
gets
And this
outside.
could have could have been much worse because you look at the numbers here. Locked up here at the 50-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
This offensive lineman is now going to destroy Kirby Joseph. Really, it looks like it's going to come down to Brandon Joseph, your one top safety here.
Is that
but
who's far back, Brandon?
Yep. But
Okay,
because Alex gets off the wide receiver block, slows him down at least, then you have the opportunity for some of these other guys to get off their blocks. I mean, it still does eventually come down to Brandon Joseph, who misses the tackle, but you slowed him down enough that Carlton Davis.
It's essentially, your linebackers end up in trail, which is what you don't really necessarily want them to be. You want them to be ahead of the play and outside of the play. And Alex not being quite in the right spot, Jack dipping it under early. Kirby actually did the right thing by getting outside of that tackle and trying to blow that, or that pulling guard, and trying to get that pulling guard out of the way. Kirby, good for Kirby, man. Both these run plays, Kirby's in the right spot doing the right thing.
Well, we'll see on the next one, because I think, I don't know, it's a hard one, because I think the next one you just kind of have to give it up to Kenneth Walker for making something out of nothing. The 21-yard touchdown here. But there's a bunch of things going on, really. So this one's initially run here. It stopped dead in its tracks right away. You have Alex free. This lane is completely blown up. But unfortunately, you got DJ Reader on the ground now. And so he's going to find a cutback lane. What?
Who's to his left?
left?
Reader's left. He's standing at the 22, at the hash. Is that Pascal? No, up. Is that Pascal?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, too deep.
Pascal's, I think, down here. But this is Pascal, I think, way down here.
Okay.
But then, yeah.
No, it's Pascal.
Was it?
Oh, yeah. Pascal gets too deep. He needs
the end
to be
zone.
Set.
Oh, I was thinking of Wingo. Wingo's the one that gets blocked a little deep.
Yeah.
So you got
Pascal
Hutchinson.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hutchinson, Wingo, Reader, Pascal, I think, and then Neiman over there. This angle's a little bit better. I do
Pascal
wonder about Campbell here.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's supposed to take on that guy to leave Anzalone free. That's fine. But you get DJ Reader falling down there. And now, you can see the lane clear. I think
right. And that's where Pascal needs to be stepping to his right. He did a good job of staying off the block and staying clean, and he's actually in a really good spot to have contain on that side. But he needs to be stepping to his right to close, because there's no reason for him to be deep. And watch where his step goes left. Yeah. And that puts him in a spot where he can't recover from.
And I don't like these two defenders too. Like Kirby and Neiman, they're both going to come crashing inside. Maybe they see this blocker and they're like, all right, we don't want this ball run up. He has a lead blocker to the inside. So they both crash down inside, leaving this entire cutback lane to nobody. Like he's running away from DK Metcalf's block here. Neiman.
No, but because Kirby has to get to 57.
Yeah.
That's why Kirby's crashing in. It's Pascal takes the wrong step and leaves that cutback lane open. See, because Kirby has another defender on the outside of him. So Kirby has to get inside, which means Kirby should be going to 57.
You're right. Yeah.
The cutback there, and now Carlton should be there in the open field as his backside help.
So why does Pascal do what he does exactly?
Because Reader's on the ground.
On the ground. He doesn't want to step on him.
Yep, he steps around. He thinks I got to step around him. He should be going to his right. He doesn't. That's compromises that play. Tough for Carlton in the open field like that.
Yeah,
Kirby can't recover. I actually like what Kirby did on all three of those shows or plays.
There was another play that I had watched where it was like that was maybe it's this one. It's a tackle for loss here. Kirby is that defender, I think.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Connect.
I mean, look at that. Yeah. Just blows up the wide receiver block. Just nothing.
Full extension to stay off the block. That's great.
Yeah. And Terion in on there too. Kirby's having a hell of a season, man.
When considering tackling was his big red flag coming out of college, he's really becoming a complete safety. And Brian Branch is amazing, and to pair him with Kirby, I think that's pretty sensational.
I think you're literally in the conversation of a top 3 safety duo in the league.
I was not as fast to jump on that train, because I was I don't know, are they really as good as we think? I'm starting to buy into that I agree with you. Yeah. Kirby's PFF grade was 74.7. Fourth
in this
best.
game?
Yep.
Or overall?
In this game. And his run defense was 76.2, which was the highest of the Lions on the run defense since I saw the question in the chat.
There you go. Let me get to some alerts, and then we'll answer some of your guys' questions here in the live audience. RGA, thank you for the 24 months. Says go Loins and Gritty Tigs. Derek Boberg, 20 bits, says, sorry if you've already covered this, but do you think 2 weeks is enough for coaches to address the on-field issues with Terion Arnold? Let me get to that after I go through the alerts. Darth Tater, 3 months, says Hutch will win Defensive Player of the Year and break the sack record. I mean,
sack record's tough to get to.
Sack record's definitely gonna be tough, but he's on a solid pace right now. The Trevor Van, thank you for 33 months, says hashtag Gritty Tigs, and Baller Milio, thank you for the 18 months total. All right, we're not.
For those who don't know, sack record's 22.5. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
I mean, is he on pace?
I don't know.
For,
I don't want to do the
no,
math.
yeah. Okay, he's on pace.
6.5?
With the extra game helps. Yeah, extra game helps. So yeah, he's all right. He's on pace to clear it, but I don't think you're going to get.
Yeah,
that's a tough ask.
Let's talk Terion, because I didn't take a Terion question. I don't think.
Oh really?
I didn't.
Okay.
So Derek asked if 2 weeks is enough to address the on-field issue with Terion Arnold. First of all, it's only 1 week, because they don't coach you in the bye week. They let you go do your thing. The players, I believe, are already out of the building. They might leave you with some homework and things like that, but there's not going to be on-field teaching with Terion. Second of all, I'm sorry. Everyone's overreacting to this. I thought Monday was his best game.
Yeah, I agree.
Tyler Lockett is a really freaking good receiver. Remember what Tyler Lockett did to Brian Branch on the game-winning touchdown last year? He's a really freaking good receiver, and he was not wide open a single time in this game. Every single ball he caught was contested or between a tight zone. Like, I know the flags are annoying, and they're easy to spot, and they're easy to point the finger at. Man, I think he's fighting for his life, and he's doing a good job. I really do. And
I don't think people appreciate how hard it is to play corner as a rookie in a man-heavy defense.
Yeah, right.
It's incredibly hard. And you know how you get better? You play.
Yeah.
He's already getting better by playing.
Yeah.
The idea of trying to scale him back or refocus, no. Let the dog fight. Let him go. Like give him as many reps as he wants. Put him on offense, get him more reps. I don't care. Like, just to learn get him reps. That's what he needs. Reps are going to make him better, and he's going to this is a highly intelligent kid, right? Like, you ever listen to him talk? Like, you ever talk to him in person? If you have talked to him in person, you'll know how smart he is, and that he's not a guy that you're going to put on the sidelines and expect him to improve. That is not how Terion works. Like, let's have a conversation with him. Let's get an idea of what his mindset is. And his mindset is he's can do everything out there that any other NFL starter can do. And his aspirations are to be the best. You need to be patient. This is a hard position. Like, there are a couple positions that are harder to learn in the NFL than others. And it's rare to see a unicorn. Sam Laportas don't come around. Tight end is a hard position to learn. Sam is so unique. Corner, quarterback. Look at the quarterback class. Like, CJ Stroud is rare. Like, he's just rare. Yep. And then these teams are so quick to pull the rug out on their quarterbacks because they aren't performing. Like, it's hard for rookies to come in transition. I don't care if you've played at Bama. Yes. Okay. Sauce Gardner, unicorn, right? Like, that's like, it's rare. You know how many, like, you have to be patient with these guys. And if you are not patient, you are going to run yourself into the ground with your frustrations, because this is part of becoming an NFL player.
And with corners particular, it's a league that is written a rule book against you. It 100%. Is a league that is, I mean, look at the proliferation of wide receivers right now. We are living in the golden age of wide receivers where every single team has two that can kill you. Every single team has
three.
Two that can kill you.
They're getting there. They're getting close to three.
They've played a couple teams that have three already.
Yes.
It's hard out there. To me, it's the hardest position in football. It, like, maybe quarterback first, but corner is second. It's the hardest. And I'm telling you, man, the kid is fighting. Like, he's out there. He's making plays on the football too. And yeah, that's a good point too. Like, I don't know why anyone would be like, we need to see more Kindle Vildor. We like maybe Ennis
I
Rakestraw, but like you think he's gonna go out there and start like setting the world
he's
on
coming
fire?
off an injury.
He's coming out of an injury and
one
hasn't
snap.
played. Yeah,
He played
like,
one snap.
I,
Okay, I know how to fix it. I really do.
Mhm.
It's simple. It'll take a day. It won't even take a full 2 weeks. It'll take one day. Okay. You just got to follow all the refs' Instagram accounts, and you'll be good to go.
But no, let's talk about Terion Arnold's game and what can happen to fix it. Is like let's diagnose his play and see if is there any radical changes he needs to make. I mentioned this yesterday, and because it was a really insightful thing Justin Rogers pointed out after a conversation with Terion, which is Terion told him the biggest difference so far that I'm having to adjust with is the speed in which the ball is coming in. Because when you're in college, it's coming in higher and slower. More time to react, more time to turn your head and find it. Things are coming in lower and faster, and that's just like a timing issue, right? It's a identifying when the hands are going up, when the route is breaking, and when to turn around, and knowing that clock has to go a little bit faster at the NFL level.
Did you see the tweet from Sauce about Terion?
I did, and I don't know enough about the mechanics of the position to even understand why that's helpful, to be completely honest.
You're just up in phase a little bit faster, right? When you're lower, you're like trying to maintain speed. When you're lower, you're in your back pedal. It helps you maintain your speed in your back pedal more.
Right.
But in this man that they're playing, like you don't need to be speed backpedaling. You can just like run in phase, and he's fast enough to run with these guys. And so it's certainly easy for Sauce because he's got all the intangibles, right?
Right.
But it's
cool
sometimes it's just little adjustments. Yeah, no. And sometimes it's just hand placement. Like it's instead of like putting your hand here, you have to put it here, right? We were talking to Carlton and we were talking about one of his pass breakups, and he said like he got one hand, he got one hand on a pass breakup and he extended his arm around, and he said, my right hand was on this side of the guy. He's like, if I just dip my right hand under, he's like, I got to pick. He's like, and so even Carlton, who's this like, been in the league for several years. He's a very seasoned veteran. Even he is talking about, it's just, I got to get this little hand placement. It's a constant like learning thing that these guys are going through. And those little nuances. You get upright faster. Yep. It's get your hands, instead of getting your hands where you're up by the guy's face mask where he got that PI in week 2, you keep your hands like a little bit lower where you're coming up. That's why they teach the corners to come up in between the receiver's hands as opposed to down, is because when you're coming up, you're less likely to get penalized and it's easier to bring your arm like that. And so like just lots of little nuances like that he's going to gather every single week. So,
and like, I'm going to be honest, maybe this is me talking out my butt, but like, do I think Terion Arnold is handsier than the average cornerback? Not really. I don't. I feel like the sort of hand fighting and stuff happens all the time. And the lines are just, to me, getting victimized by ticky-tacky calls. The lines could certainly be doing more to make sure those flags aren't coming, but I think there is going to be just a regression to the mean that also happens here.
Yeah, and we talked about it after the game. Once you get flagged, the refs are now looking for you to get flagged, right? And it takes time like to kind of get away from like that, because the refs also look at the game, and they also study the film of the teams that they're going to be refereeing, because they're looking for tendencies, and they're like, okay, this guy does this, I have to watch for this. And then they're told by the other coaches or the other players, like, he's doing this, right? And so they're constantly trying to look for these things. And if you see on tape Terion's got a pass interference in every game, well, you're going to be looking for that, and you're going to be a little bit, more instinctive to want to get rid of the flag.
That's the scary outlook of it.
Well, you just got
already has that reputation.
You got to stop it, though. You know what I mean? You got to get to a point where you just aren't. You know what I mean?
Fair. All right. I think that's good enough Terion Arnold conversation. Connor, thank you for subscribing over on YouTube. If you guys have any more questions, our live audience here, we can answer a couple more of them. Okay, this is a good one for Brad Holmes' Bulge, and I think I have the answer to it, but like, ask literally why is every time the opponent throws a 50-50 ball, it's DPI, but for us, we never even have possible DPI calls. It's because we are always wide open, and that we are sticky on defense, not a bad thing. I think part of it too is it's just not our wide receivers don't run with a physical nature to them. That's not their game style, right? It's not Amon-Ra is not going to physically.
You mean in route?
What? Any routes?
He's more of a slicer, but I mean there's physicality to his game, but it's not like DK. Like right. DK is a guy who's purposefully going to push off. He's purposefully going to be trying to outmuscle you. And Carlton's is 100% right. The way you counter that is to get physical with him, and they should have been letting that go. But at the same time, you would like to see Carlton adjust, but Carlton shared with us he said he got flagged. He cited one incident where he did something. I think it was a 2-point conversion where he gets flagged because he's being aggressive. And Carlton's like, what am I supposed to do when he's doing that to me? And they're like, well, you're supposed to do this. And he's like, I can't. That's not going to work. He's like, I'm just going to do the exact same thing I just did. I'm going to do it again. He's like, I'm going to just do it again. And we'll see if you want to throw your flag a second time. And they went back and they ran the exact same play. And he got the pass break up. And he looked at him and he said to the ref, no flag? And they went, no, you're all right this time. And he was like, okay, cool. But he's having these conversations.
That's what I'm saying. Right? Why I think there's going to be a regression to the mean is you can do the same thing on 5 different plays and get 2 flags and not flag 3 times. It's bizarre.
No, next game you have to just take the refs out of it because as who pointed it out, one of the post game shows, I think it was Scott Van Pelt. Lions are 7-1 in their last 8 primetime games, and the only primetime game they lost was the Dallas one, and so there's revenge on the mind for in Dallas. In so many different ways, right?
Yeah.
And so, yes,
you don't even give
the refs a chance.
Yeah, I talked to Mookie after this past game. Mookie Alexander, the Seahawks field goals writer.
He's scared, right? Oh no, not Mookie. Sorry, I was thinking RJ.
No.
Go ahead.
And he's like, listen, dude, if you guys broke the Seahawks curse, it might actually be your year. And I said, hold up. We got one more mountain to climb, and it's the next game. If they can beat Dallas in Dallas, where the home cooking is extra hot, that's when you know something's up. And to be clear, how many demons has Dan Campbell exercised since he's got here, right? Playing in Lambeau is. Do you remember 10 years ago when playing in Lambeau was just an automatic L?
Yeah.
For 30 straight years or whatever it was. Oh, Thanksgiving is another good one. Yeah, Thanksgiving's another one that they need to get. Who do they got in Thanksgiving this year? Bears?
Is it Bears?
I'm pretty sure it's a NFC North team.
Dub.
I think it's Bears, and then you have the Packers the following Thursday or something like that.
Yeah, I know the Packers are for sure. Yeah. Yeah, Bears.
Yeah.
Be a nice win. I'm excited for that win.
Apex Predator asks, do we see Rakestraw getting any playing time? He looked great against the Giants in the preseason, but he hasn't gotten any time yet. Kind of sucks. Thinks he's got great potential.
Which
Rakestraw. Rakestraw.
Oh, I think his injury just kind of has hooked him.
But the question is, will he get an opportunity? because you have your outside corners, you have Erik at nickel. How is the only way he's going to play
Yeah,
through an injury?
spelling. No, well, I mean he's gonna spell a guy if they get hurt or, but yeah, he's probably, you might get like 6 to 8 snaps a game, and unless there's an injury, which I'm telling you, I love Rakestraw. You don't want an injury. The two corners that you have are your best two corners, and I think Rakestraw is going to be good, but he's not quite at Terion's level. He's not quite at Carlton's level. Um, and I think Rakestraw is great. I think Rakestraw can be something really fun, and he does things the way that the Lions want in a lot of ways. Um, I also like he can back up all three of those guys, right?
Yep.
Like he can play them
Yep.
all. And so I want to be patient with Rakestraw because a year from now, I think he's got some potential to be challenging for starting roles. I don't want him in a starting role now. I want him just to get a little bit better. And I know we just talked about snaps help, snaps help, snaps help,
Mm-hmm.
but and they certainly do. I think the guys that you have in place are your best three. Go ahead.
I'm going to be careful with what I say,
Oh,
but I would say don't count out Rakestraw in an ongoing nickel corner battle.
I I do think he is it could be one of his better roles because he's such a good run defender. He's very Brian Branch-esque,
Mm-hmm.
and he could be very Brian Branch-esque in that role. I think the difficulty is there are a lot of teams out there with three wide receivers, and Meek is a guy that they love
They do
and the
like him.
players love. And he hasn't been bad at all. Like
No.
he's been all right. I've been very content with what he's done. Um, and he gives them more quickness than Rakestraw does. Still has some physicality, has some more quickness. He can hang with guys, some of the more pure natural like slot receivers as opposed to like your bigger bodies.
Right.
But like he's just very good. He's a guy that again, like Carlton brought up as a guy that he's like I look up to Amik and what he does on the field and how he comes in. And keep in mind, Amik is younger than Carlton and he's in a part-time role, right? Yet this is a guy that the other corners look at and say, I like the way he does it. I like the way what he does.
Yep.
So I agree with you. Rakestraw could challenge. At the same time, I'm also saying Amik is a guy they really, really, really
No
like.
question. They do really, really like him, and there's no reason for them not to. I loved going back and watching Amik's Raiders tape. It's very fun.
Oh, it's great.
Um,
Such a competitor.
I do wonder if he's a little bit better on the outside. But
Yeah,
so
no,
far
that's a
so
great
good.
point. Good point.
So like, part of me thinks if an outside corner gets hurt, maybe your best rotation is to put Amik on the outside and then slide Ennis at the nickel. I don't know,
It's
like an
interesting.
in-game injury. I'm not sure they would do that because we've seen Ennis already come in, not a lot, but come in and be the third
Yeah, in
corner
game
out
one,
there.
he was third
Yeah.
corner. Yep, game one. Yep.
But I'm just telling you, like, based on something I know. Don't
All right.
don't be surprised if you see just one random game where, hey, is that Ennis as the starting nickel? Don't be. I mean, and if there's anything we know about this coaching staff, like they are not afraid to have an ongoing competition as the season is happening.
Certainly.
And it's
And they come out of the bye sometimes with some new wrinkles too. That
True.
happens more
True.
often.
And yeah, like and some people will look at it as a benching, right? And
Oh no.
and
Hopefully
that's not going to be the case with someone like Amik, because I think it's just, I mean, it's the same thing that they did with their kicker situation, where it's just like this guy started playing really well, and we needed to play him instead. Am I thinking the right thing?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
They switched kickers last year.
Yeah.
I think the way we have to envision the Lions defense, and it's hard to do, but the Lions have like 8 starters that are going to be out there in most sets as the preferred guy.
Yeah.
But then, depending on what your set is, depending on what your opponent is, you may have different guys in more high priority roles. There's going to be times when the Sam's going to be more featured than the nickel. There's going to be times when nickel's more featured. There's going to be times when you want a big nickel
Right.
instead of a corner
Yep.
nickel. Just like there's going to be times when you're going to want Levi playing like a D end versus a D tackle or vice versa, right? And so there are guys that there are going to be guys that you are going to want to utilize in different sets with different opponents. And so I do think you have to think of defense kind of as like, yeah, they have like 14 starters on their 11-man defense,
Right.
right? Just
Yep.
because of how they utilize the different sets.
Um, two more questions before we jump back into it. One is, do you believe in the Vikings? I can't remember who asked it. Al over on YouTube, and I'm sorry to say that I think I do.
Ooh, all right.
First of all, I have the utmost respect for Brian Flores as a defensive coordinator, and
Sure.
as much attention as their offense is getting, to me, a lot of their success is based on what they've been able to do defensively, and they're getting a lot out of players I wouldn't have expected. The loss of Daniil Hunter seems like it has made no negative impact on the team. Their secondary is full with a couple good veterans that are giving them a high level of play. And then listen, I also have I have a ton of respect for Kevin O'Connell too. And it's not really a fluke that he's been able to get good production out of a quarterback that other people have discarded because he did it last year. And while a couple of those guys came crashing back down to earth a little bit, Sam Darnold's a first round pick. Like, he is a guy who has a lot of really, really good physical tools. He's put in an offense where he's got a lot of weapons. They don't even have TJ Hawkinson back yet, and they will by the first time the Lions play him. There might be some regression there. You know, I don't expect them to go 17-0 or anything, but like, they're not going away.
Water is going to find its level on Sam Darnold, and he's going to become less of a factor than he is now. I agree that their defense is good. I like Aaron Jones as a running back. Always been an Aaron Jones fan, but I have no confidence that Sam Darnold can do what he's been doing for 13 more games. Look, quarterbacks go through these resurgences where they have like success. I'm not buying into it just yet. Do I think they can make the playoffs? Sure. Do I think they can finish second in the NFC behind the Lions? Sure. Do I think that they're going
The
to
NFC
go
or the NFC North?
or the North? No, you can, whatever. They can be in second in the NFC if they want to. I don't care. Behind the Lions. But I'm not sold on the Vikings being able to sustain. Just because when you look across the league, there are so many good teams that are struggling right now, and there are bad teams. There are a couple bad teams that are playing, better than expected.
Yep.
But like, eventually, things level out, right? And
Sure.
and I do. There was a time when we had this same conversation with Josh Dowd or
Yeah, Josh Dobbs.
Jobs. Thank you. And I was
Yeah.
like, I know it's not Dowd. When Dobbs took over, and everybody was like, "Oh no,
You're
the
right.
Vikings are for real." And then 3 games later, it was like, he's terrible. Bench him because like it will find its way, right? And I've
Not the
watched
same
enough.
person, Eric. They're not the same person.
Yeah, but look, he's not Baker Mayfield. Okay. The closest example of a guy that you have that struggled and then found success is Baker.
Yeah.
But he's not Baker. Like he doesn't work like him. He doesn't have the same mindset. Like Baker's a different character than Sam Darnold is, in my opinion. I just think at some point Darnold will become,
I think
it'll
he's more
strike
Mayfield
midnight.
than he is Dobbs. Dobbs was a guy who they brought in the middle of the season.
No. I'm not saying he's Dobbs.
But that being a flash in the pan made so much sense because it was never real. Like it was like he was never. I mean, he made a couple of really good plays.
Right?
But
No, that was
that
people
offense
couldn't
was
adjust.
not. That offense was not flourishing under Josh Dobbs. They were winning the games.
Here's where I'm going with this.
Yeah,
is that the coaching staff is they have some good coaches in Minnesota.
Yes.
And they have a good defense in Minnesota.
Yep.
And sometimes when you have a quarterback who can have a couple of good games, you can surprise, just like the Minnesota did last year. And you can have a stretch of games where people are looking at you and be, wow, they look really strong. And eventually, though, when that quarterback's level, finds itself, they become less of a threat. But Minnesota, when you have good coaches and a good defense, and you can do those, and the number one receiver in the NFL, like you can look really good.
Yeah.
I just don't have confidence in Sam Darnold.
All right. I'm not there with you, but I can certainly understand it.
Darnold, you may look at Darnold and say he's kryptonite because he beat the Lions when he was with the Jets as well. Like, remember that first game?
Yes,
oh yeah, I do too. I was next to you. You screamed, you yelled. I remember.
This is
a working press box.
His hot start in Minnesota is vindication. Like, oh, of course Sam Darnold torched us in his first career game. Like, he's actually good.
Stop it. Stop it. Carolina's a problem. So I'm not going to discount too much Carolina stuff, but
that Carolina game that's being referenced, that was the one where they had a billion rushing.
Yeah, the field was terrible. Yeah. I'm not worried about.
Someone threw, I think it was Argantis. Is that what your name is? Yeah, Argantis threw in a tweet from Todd Archer, the ESPN Cowboys writer, who says the Cowboys will be without Brandon Cooks at least this week versus Pittsburgh and potentially longer after an infection developed in his right knee following a procedure he had remaining in New York following the win against the Giants.
Ouch.
So now you're talking about DeMarcus Lawrence, maybe Micah Parsons, probably Micah Parsons. I'll just say maybe because who knows. And then
no, they're
maybe
both
Brandon
out.
Cooks.
They've said that
right,
they said both of them are pretty much out.
No,
that's what they said.
Well, one is on IR, the other one is, but that was a week ago at this point.
Okay, all right.
I just to me, there is this media overreaction to injuries that eventually, like, Jordan Love was going to be out for a month, and then he missed 2 games.
All right.
I'm going to wait before I officially be like, Micah Parsons is not going to play in this game.
Okay. Let me add one more thing just to see if this helps. Maybe
with what?
Calm you down a little bit.
What about
with
Sam
Micah
Darnold?
Parsons? No, about Micah Parsons.
You calm down a little. I'm calm.
No, calm down. Calm down.
I'm calm.
Do you know what? Do you know why? Another reason why I feel like they're going to keep Parsons out. They have a bye after the Lions.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
Right. And so I certainly think with your
That's fair.
defensive player of the year, you're not going to be like, you got to come back to keep the Lions, at bay.
Sorry, Chad. I did not mean to scream in your ears like that. My fault. If you're wearing headphones, I'm so sorry. I had another question. What was it? Frick, I forgot. That was the Vikings. Are they real? Oh, Damian Smith donated $2 or £2, so we should answer his question, which is: yes. Do you think that play action gets disrespect? And I'm not.
Oh, not in Detroit.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure what that's necessarily referencing. Maybe it kind of plays into the Geno Smith had a better game than Jared Goff type of thing. Is the question like a quarterback who does play action is not as good as one that can create a play on his own type of thing? Because I mean, listen.
Okay.
All right.
Everyone's
talking run action. Okay.
Run action. You gotta know the difference.
There is
with
no
play
difference, right?
action.
Like that's not a run action and play action.
He was his wasn't his video about talking about using the run to set up the pass. Wasn't that what he was basically talking about?
Yes.
All right, whatever.
Yes.
We're not all right. Yeah, all right. So I think that's what he was referring to. Here's the deal. If you are a quarterback that is good at play action, you don't even need the run game to be good.
True.
But when the run game is good and you have a quarterback who's really good at it, that's when things become really lethal, right? And Goff is one of the better play action quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
Right? Like we were spoiled because Stafford was really good at it as well. But there's a lot of quarterbacks that are not, right?
Yeah.
They don't hide it properly. Their movements are not consistent.
I don't think Stafford was that good at it, if I'm being completely honest.
Stafford was pretty good.
I thought he was okay, but like a lot of times he's just like he's got one arm out and it's like painfully obvious that the ball's not in. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Okay. I'm
criticizing Stafford. Okay, that doesn't happen very often.
I was gonna let it go because I didn't want you to scream into the microphone again. But so everybody's talking right now about how Goff is boring. Like he's almost like robotic, right? Like honestly, I've heard it from like several like 3 or 4 different like shows. They're like, Goff isn't as exciting as it's not exciting or whatever. But all right, regardless.
People dumb.
He is consistent.
Yeah.
And his actions. And that consistency is why he can disguise it better than a lot of other quarterbacks. And so like there's a huge advantage to being almost robotic in your movement before you get into your play.
Right, because you're not tipping anything.
And then when you have a run game that is so wildly successful, you have to absolutely respect it. It's because if you are already respecting the run game and then you have a quarterback that can also disguise, you have to wait an extra beat. And then it just becomes more problematic, and you end up with these like in the Orlovsky video with like those big holes over the middle of the field and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
the thing that struck me in the Dan Orlovsky video is like it's a reminder that the play fake is not just the job of the quarterback.
Yeah.
The offensive line takes a big part in selling those down blocks, like you are run blocking. And in that play, he does a really good job highlighting that, where it's just like if you freeze frame that in the middle of the play, you're like, oh, these guys are run blocking. This is a run. This is and then they pull it back and got him. Like you got him because that's what the linebackers are reading, right? You're reading the keys. It's not always.
Oh yeah, 100%.
In fact, it's often you're not reading the quarterback. The quarterback doesn't necessarily need to hard sell that. They are reading the way that the offensive line is
linebackers. Linebackers read the guards more often than they read anybody else. It's a eye movement is guard back, right?
Yeah.
Like we talk about like quarterbacks going through progression, this to this to this, and there's this fluidity to it.
Yep.
With the linebacker, it's I'm assigned to this guard and I have to watch the movement of this guard in order to ascertain what I'm going to do at the level behind it. And so the first read is what do the guards do? And when the guards move the way that the rest of the line moves, then that's where they make their first initial key. And so just can we write Hank Fraley a blank check and just make him
a lifetime coach?
I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
I would just pay him coordinator money and let him coach the offensive line and be happy, prosper.
He's pretty good.
I mean, talk about like being fluid and consistent in your movements. That's what these guys are, right?
Yeah.
Hey, did you happen to catch the pre-game Monday Night Football any interviews? I saw there was an interview. They did an interview with Hutch and Sewell. And I only saw like a little like 2.5 or 3 minute clip of it. I don't know how long it actually was. But what I found interesting was it was mostly just like, Panay, what's so great about Aiden? Aiden, what's so great about Panay? And they were like kind of complimenting each other, right? And more Panay. Panay was very complimentary. But Aiden talked about the fact that when Aiden was a rookie, and Panay was a sophomore, how they both were like, we didn't really know what we were doing with our hands,
Hmm.
and like we're so much more purposeful in what we do now. And I was thinking back to when we saw them, like, and I was like, they were really good then. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
Like, and
Well,
they're looking back and they're like, it's garbage. We were terrible. And
it
now we're better. And I'm like, my goodness.
it goes
Like,
back to, sorry, I didn't mean to cut off your point there.
no, that
Um,
was it.
but it goes back to the Aiden Hutchinson draft debate, right? Where it was him versus Trayvon Walker versus
Oh yeah.
Kayvon Thibodeau, and
Oh yeah.
the rub
Mr.
on
New York.
like both the positive and the negative for Aiden Hutchinson, it felt like was high floor, low ceiling. Like he's going to be good in this league, but he'll never be great. He's all like,
Yeah.
how many people did you read from saying Aiden Hutchinson has already reached his highest potential?
Yeah. A lot of people.
Because he has these physical limits, right? He's the short arms, he doesn't have the bend, whatever. And I just remember hearing that criticism from draft gurus, and I'm like, are you crazy? You're saying a rookie in this league has already reached his pinnacle? That's insane. And listen, there are limits to Aiden's game, right? Like he won't bend the edge like the iconic pass rushers of
Hard to
the
do at
2000s.
6'7",
right?
but yes.
Arm length has certainly not been an issue, which
No.
was always kind of a silly thing. But
Because
to think that you can only be an elite pass rusher in this league with bend is elite bend, because he can bend. I mean, he's not terrible, but it's just that was one of the weirder, sillier criticisms of me, where it's just like there's too much pre-draft process. If you're saying a guy has a low ceiling and he's already reached its pinnacle, like that's just dumb.
I'm
You don't
not
know
sure
how
people
development in
thought
the
he
NFL works.
was JJ, and TJ Watt level of player, but I really think he is. Like, I think he is. As Ultimate Punisher points out, like he put on a lot of lower body weight.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
his rookie year, his legs were like
He's got
size
tree trunks
proportionate.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now he's insane. Like it's crazy. But that rookie to sophomore transition, his body, like he's a specimen now. Like he's freaky. And that lower weight that he put on his thighs, crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy helped with his power. But it did seem like there's so many guys that kind of can get to a level and then they just kind of stop like learning, right? They kind of stop their
Sure.
development. They go with what's working, or they
Yeah.
learn different tricks, or they prepare for their opponent. Aiden was talking about the fact that he didn't really even do a spin rush or the spin thing that he's like known for as being like one of the best spin moves in the league. He didn't even start doing that till halfway through his rookie season.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he's only been doing it a couple
And
years now, right? So
I'm trying to remember the progression of it, because he talked about this last week, I think, where he would only do the spin move in one direction. I think it was to the outside.
yeah, and Williams, the new D-line coach this year, has him doing it the other
Inside.
way.
Right. And
Yeah,
I can't
to the
remember.
inside. Yeah,
Right. And it's like,
yeah. No, Aiden always would spin outside,
Yeah.
and very rarely would he go up and then spin back. It rarely happened. Now he's spinning inside all the time.
yeah.
And
And it's
they have no
working
idea.
all the time, dude.
It's like he can spin in, he can spin out, and the thing is to go back to what like Ultimate Punisher here said, his bull rush is so strong
Yep.
that they have to respect that first.
Yep.
And then when he hits them with the spin or his chop moves that he does now, they're so fast. His hand movement is so quick. Like it's push and extend, and then it's just a up and under, and he's just like boom, gone. And it's his hand movement this offseason has gone up exponentially, which is one of the reasons why he's having such massive success. And you're starting to get all these things put together, and it's like, oh my goodness, he has 40 pressures after 4 games, and the
No
next
one else has
closest person
24.
has 24, right? Like that's insane.
It's insane.
Like,
He's having
do you know how
this season.
Side note, I got criticized heavily for not liking Thibodeau as much as the general population did.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many times that I want to be critical of something that he does, and I don't
You hold
because I
back.
know I have that. I know I have that like label on me, and it's very frustrating for me. I just wanted to share that.
That's fair. I'll be honest. I was. It was a toss up for me, but I think I was leaning Thibodeau at the time. I get
Well,
I get a little hung up
look,
with the athletic traits.
it's so fun, right? Like
Yeah.
that's so fun. But like,
And I
yeah,
don't think he's a bad player, but
I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't know. I think this organization is in a much different spot with him as a leader, as opposed to what's that?
I got the PFF grades of Thibodeau up just for fun.
Okay, yeah,
They're
dude.
not,
Like
they're not good.
you should see his reporters. Like you should see how he's treating the reporters there too. Like when they ask him about stuff, he straight ignores reporters. Somebody asked him a question, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to answer that." And the guy was like, "Well, I think it's a legitimate question," and he was like, "Yeah," and he just the next question, and he just like, and I'm thinking, how would that
Yeah.
fly
I mean,
here?
that's the toughest evaluation for us too, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah, it's impossible.
how he's going to be as a
Impossible.
person. I mean,
Impossible.
there were a little bit of rumblings about Thibodeau, right? Like there were some. I feel
Yeah,
like it
but I
happened
think
like
it was
right, and it was right towards draft time, right? Where it's just like, is this
yeah,
real or is this someone
yeah,
being a dick and trying to affect
certainly.
draft position?
The thing that I didn't like about Thibodeau was some of his on-field stuff, like
Yeah.
some of the edge setting and stuff like that. And I wasn't even like mean. Like I've been so much more critical of other guys than I was of him. But
Like who?
it was
I'm just kidding.
I can tell you the worst one. But but I got so much heat for that. And
Yeah.
and now I'm trying to be nice, but he's just I'm not as impressed
Listen,
with what he's done.
Ryan's been doing
I
his
don't
victory laps about Malik.
like
So
yeah.
so
Well,
if you want to do a victory lap or two, go for it. All right, let me get to some of these last alerts here, and then I think we should
yeah.
jump back into the show.
Oh, probably.
Um, let's see. Honey, or no, Ho Hey T. Thank you for the 3 months subscribed on Twitch. Didium's 26 months subscribed says we're beating Dallas, and then we're shutting up the Vikings. Man, if they go 2-0 out of the bye like that, that's oh boy, we're gonna start the 1 seed talk in a hurry. Silver Rush, thank you for the 17 months. Yeah, there's only one team ahead of them right now, I guess. So
Yeah. And they're gonna beat him in 2 weeks.
Dunfest, thank you for the 12 months, and Baseball Recruit, thank you for becoming a member over on YouTube. We don't get a ton of YouTube memberships, so very much appreciate that. And everyone over there on YouTube. I know sometimes it feels like we treat you guys second in order, but we're still growing that community over there. We're still trying to develop, I think, kind of the culture in our YouTube chat. Like Twitch, we got down. We know, I know what to expect from Twitch chat. They know what to expect from me. I'm still getting to know you guys over there on YouTube. 100 bits from Nick the Greek. Matt Patricia's ill-fitting and nacho cheese stained Ed Hocules costume. Sorry, I blew that. By the way, the fact that you posted that picture is that I could tell based on the grayness of the beard that was a new picture of you in the
Yeah, I did it that
outfit.
day. I did it that day. Notice it was just a chest up picture. Because that outfit does not fit me anymore. Yeah. I also waited till my wife left because when I pulled the costume out and I was like, "Oh my gosh, my hockey league jersey," she looked at me and went, "Put it on. I dare you." And I was like, "No, I'm gonna wait till you leave, and then I'm not when it's just me and the little one." But I did tag Nick in it because I knew Nick wanted to see it. So
yeah, I actually was trying to tag Nick, and for some reason, I can never find his Twitter handle. Twitter search is the worst. I'm just like at Nick the Greek. No, it's. I think part of it it's like Nico the Greco, right?
I just put Nick in. I guess I interact with him more than you do because it just comes up for me. So
Twitter search sucks for me. You probably
certainly
you probably pay
it does.
Elon.
I don't. I don't have that blue check mark. I
Yeah, it
don't
is.
need
See,
to.
see on Nico the Greco. Damian Smith just donated £5. Says, yes, the Goff Geno comp is what I meant. I've seen some writers call play action training wheels for mediocre quarterbacks.
Oh, that's silly.
That's it's silly.
Unfollow those guys.
But and also like looking at Goff's performance, man, he was incredibly accurate. He lasered a couple layered throws through. I mean, you remember that pass? I think it was to Tim Patrick, where like
he had two good throws, Tim Patrick.
But
two of them, both
but
were
you
real
remember
good.
the one where I turned to you and be like, I thought that was an interception the entire way.
Yeah,
like,
over the middle where he cut. Where it was a late cut.
Yeah. Like that is. You have to have extreme arm talent to make that throw. You have to have the kind of confidence that we showed on the JMO throw where it's like there's a defender staring you down right where you want to throw the ball and you're going to throw it anyways by his ear. Like he made 4 or 5 of those throws and out of 18 passes, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah. Listen, saying play action is like training wheels for a quarterback is ridiculous because that's like saying, well, the Lions have Sam Laporta, so they have a safety valve because they have a really good tight end, so that makes his play. Stop it.
Yeah.
Or saying like the run game, Goff shouldn't get credit because he has a good run game. Stop it. Like,
don't try to throw asterisks on an 18 of 18 performance.
That's the thing. Like, there are so many like things that are good about this team that you can pick whatever you want. Like Seattle, Seattle was missing, some of their defensive.
It's part of this larger conversation.
Center. Like,
it's part of this larger ongoing conversation that has followed Jared Goff for far too long, which is, and listen, I have definitely been guilty of uttering this phrase before, and this is me repenting. Jared Goff does not need everything to be perfect to be a great quarterback. It helps.
Well, that's just certainly.
But he like to think to like suggest that he's a passenger on this offensive ride is insane. He is integral to what they do.
Yeah. Every piece really is. And the beauty of the Lions team that we're seeing now and why my overconfidence is showing maybe is because I've watched like they've built this team to where it not only has high level contributors at a lot of spots, but they have depth where they can overcome losses. So like when Seattle comes out and they're like, oh, but we didn't have our defense or yeah, okay, I get it. It sucks. You got to adjust. Oh, Arizona didn't have whatever. Like, okay, we get it. Everybody, it sucks. Like, Lions are missing a bunch of guys on IR too. Like, they got a whole bunch of guys over on this side of my board here that are all on IR as well, right? Like, good. The reason I'm excited about this team is because it doesn't matter.
Right.
They're still good enough to make adjustments to it. The coaching staff is good enough. The talent is good enough. And they are layered to a point. This is not just a team that is getting hot. Yeah. This is just not a team that's finding a way to win because Sam Darnold's their quarterback. This is a team that has been built this way for going on 4 years now. Like, this is a culmination of 4 years of purposeful intent work that every player has been methodically plucked and put into a spot. And when you don't have one, they make the adjustments to go get a guy like Tim Patrick. And just in case Tim Patrick doesn't work, oh, we got Allen Robinson that we're going to work in as well. Allen Robinson didn't play a snap, and he's tweeting out about how great Ford Field is because the atmosphere. That's how much he likes being here.
Right.
And like, so
Detroit guy.
This certainly, but like, there is a uniqueness about this team that is different than what we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it is something that is not present around the NFL right now. And there are some teams that have it, and those teams are good. And there's some teams that are catching on to it, and those teams are being good. And there's going to be teams that flash, but this is a team that is going to, the Lions are a team that you're talking about they came into the season with Super Bowl aspirations. People are still talking about Super Bowl like this is a team that is going to stay steady and continue to climb, and they have layers that keep them in this spot. All right, rant over.
To move it back to the Geno versus I almost said Stafford Goff thing. To me, like, first of all, I don't know why we're arguing who was the better quarterback on the day. It
ridiculous.
It really doesn't matter, and I think we can just like, I don't know. It's this like sports talk show mentality of everything has to be a contest and one has to be better than the other, and we can't just celebrate two good guys. But I think what some of these people are conflating is talent or execution with style points. Because to me, if you want to play, okay, Geno Smith had a very flashy, very high style game. He did. And it was probably better than Jared Goff's game in that aspect. I can see you already pushing back, and maybe part of that is true. Like, I do think a lot of what Jared Goff did is getting underappreciated in some of the stuff that we already highlighted, right? Like the throw to J-Mo was incredible. The 360 throw was also crazy. The man caught a touchdown pass. Like, there's some flash to his game too, don't get me wrong. But some of the things Geno did, outside of the pocket, and that's where I think the general mindset, like if you're thinking of a prototype for a modern day NFL quarterback who is best in the NFL, that's where a lot of people's minds go. It's the guys who can create stuff out of the pocket, the guys who can improvise, have incredible arm strength, are constantly going downfield with the ball. But I'm sorry, like that's not the only prototype of an elite quarterback. It's not. And Jared Goff is in the other category, and it can be just as deadly.
Game on the line. When the moment is at its biggest, Geno throws, and they're in the red zone, and it's a gotta have it play. Geno throws a pass breakup,
4 straight incompletions.
pass breakup, overthrow, and then the next drive throws a game-ending interception. Take your better quarterback and kick it.
Say what you want to say. All right.
Wait, I thought we were recording. All that stuff should have been recorded.
Honestly, right? Apparently, a lot of this stemmed from Mina Kimes' podcast, I guess. I don't know. I haven't heard it.
Oh, Mina.
I think
She's
we
a
all
Seattle
can agree
fan.
that we like Mina a lot. And yeah, maybe
certainly
there's a little bit of a blind spot there.
I'll tell you what. I'm definitely not trying to call Mina out.
No.
Because I've seen what she does to people who call her out inappropriately.
She claps
lethal.
back and in very
goodness.
clever ways. She's very good at that.
Yeah, I'm not calling Mina out.
No. All right, let's get back into it. I think that was a fun discussion. We went an hour in our break there, so we'll probably just do a half hour or shorter here. I don't think we're going to get to all of our questions, but we'll try.
Do our best. I'll be fast. I'll really try to be fast.
We know the Tigers are coming up in an hour too, so we don't want to interrupt that. So, all right, here we go. And we are back here on the Midweek Mailbag, part 2 of our bye-week edition. Next question here comes from Swag Kazakage. Asked, the Lions play a lot of man and single high defense. The corners and linebackers seem to play outside leverage to funnel guys into Kirby. With our heavy man single high scheme, can we talk about how vital Kirby Joseph is to the defense?
Yeah, I think both safeties are. We've heard this from Aaron Glenn since the day he got hired as defensive coordinator. The safeties are two of the most important positions in his defense. And that is because, one, they need to be interchangeable. You need to be able to drop one in a single high and drop the other one into the slot or the box. And then you need to be able to flip it in case the offense adjusts and maybe motions guy over or whatever. But it is absolutely designed to funnel the run inside to the safeties. And I think, was it in the break that we were talking about it? Like Kirby, his run defense is really uh, excelled. I think he's really improved it over this last offseason. It was a it was one of his biggest flags coming out of college was his this tackling wasn't where it needed to be. It's gotten there. I think he's improved each year. This is the best by far I've seen him play during his time in Detroit. He is really playing at his peak, and with him playing at his peak and Branch, we've seen like we were worried about the position switch with Branch, and he's thriving even more. And I think that really points to the fact that it is really vital to have safeties that can play at a high level, and they have two that are playing really well right now. So yeah, I agree. Both Kirby and Branch are playing high level football.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like they're not giving a lot of stuff up on the edges too, and it's not necessarily them funneling everything inside to Kirby or Branch. It's an increased level of trust in your outside corners, and that's a key part to all this too. I think because I mean, if you're playing single high, you're not necessarily left out in an island necessarily, but you kind of are in some situations, and that's why I think some of the hysteria around Terion Arnold and Carlton Davis and all the flags and all that stuff, I think a lot of it is a little bit overblown. They need to clean it up, no doubt, but you also have to understand the positions that are being put in and the amount of hands they're still getting on the ball, the amount of times that they're actually getting burned and, 2 or 3 steps away from the defender or from the receiver. You could probably count on one hand all season. So it's really interesting, and I really want to dig deeper into why they're making the schematic choices that they are. I've already talked a couple times how I find it fascinating that they're in base defense 50% of the time or more, even though they're playing all these teams that are going 3 wide all the time. Unfortunately, Aaron Glenn does not feel like divulging those secrets. Maybe I can get it. Maybe I can get it out of Dan Campbell one of these weeks. But I think anytime you try to ask any schematic or strategic questions for Aaron Glenn, he's going to shut you down, and I understand why. But my own curiosity is, I want to know. I need to know. And listen, I think we're all trying to strive to better understand the game, and so I'd like to know what the benefits of playing base defense against 3 really good wide receivers when that. I mentioned it, and I think in our post game video, or maybe it was during the podcast, like when you're out there and you see 4 defensive backs out there against 3 really, really good wide receivers, it's kind of scary. It's kind of scary, to be honest. But I think the Lions have been getting by generally pretty well. But anyways, gotten off topic here. Let's get back on topic with the next question here. It says from Clarence Oddbody asks, Lions could use some help at edge and wide receiver 3, I feel, is still unsettled. If there's a position you'd want home to invest in, which is it, and who is the realistic player you'd want? Says my choice would be Harold Landry from the Titans. He's on a bad team. He's got trade value, 28, and the contract fits. Harold Landry was a guy that I had talked about, I think, not this offseason maybe, but a previous offseason. But I'm going to be honest, I don't think I agree with the premise of this question. I don't think the Lions necessarily need an edge. I believe in Tim Patrick fully as wide receiver 3 of this offense. I'm looking around at this Lions roster, and the amount of needs I currently see are extremely low. I don't think this team necessarily has to be active in the trade deadline unless they feel like, unless 1, another injury happens and they're more shorthanded, or 2, there's a guy that's just too perfect of a fit to take a swing at and try to maybe put yourself over the top. But I don't know, man. Like, even with all the guys that are on IR and all those things that the Lions have gone through in the first 4 weeks of the season, there is not a position where I'm like, this is urgent, we need this fixed, or the Lions aren't going to be a Super Bowl team.
Yeah, I don't think there's any urgency, and that speaks to the depth of the team and the fact that they are a amoeba of a scheme where they kind of flow and move, and so I don't think there's any priority. I agree. Wide receiver 3 is a done deal for me. You can lock the book on that. I don't think they need to make any moves offensively. They have an offensive team in place that's good. They have depth on offense at a lot of different spots. They're good. I'm not stressing offense at all. On defense, I would like to see maybe a guy who could play Sam more naturally.
Sure.
But
it's so rare though.
Yeah, you're talking about a unique guy. And think Harold Landry's interesting because he's kind of Marcus Davenport-esque, right? Like he kind of has there's some similar like outside. He can be outside linebacker in a 3-4 type of scheme to his game, but I don't know if I haven't really thought about it because they've adapted. You know what I mean? Like they've said,
Right.
okay, we're gonna put our three best linebackers out there and just kind of make it work. And I think Malcolm, this is really where the wealth of riches that they've been, stockpiling at linebacker kind of come into play. Like I think Malcolm's perfectly suitable to be a starter again in this league, and that's just fine with me. So if I had to pick something, I would say Sam, just because it's a unique position. If you could find a guy, I'd be okay with getting him. I don't think it's necessary. It's like you got to have it though.
Right. For me, it's all about depth players. Like obviously if you can upgrade your starters, that's great. But like I'd love to see maybe another depth safety right now because of Iffy's injury and because of Branch has had a couple of injuries here, illnesses or whatever. But I mean, was Brandon Joseph terrible on Monday? No, but they could have used better depth there, I would say. But like, where else are we talking? Linebacker, like you said, outside of Sam, they're fine there. Interior defensive line, they're even going to get some reinforcements back with Broderick Martin later, and Makai Wingo, I think is playing at a pretty good level. He might be. I mean,
and growing.
He might be the best performing rookie right now. I don't mean disrespect to Terion Arnold because, as we said in the break, I think Terion Arnold is coming off his best game as a pro, whereas I think other people are getting other impressions just because of the flags. And then Edge is an interesting one for me. Like Marcus Davenport was so good and so clearly what they wanted in that position, but I think Pascal is doing a good job so far in that role. And I mean, who's the next guy after that? That's a fair question. But again, like that's what I'm talking about.
I know who it is, and he's not playing at a level that he needs to be at. So that's James Houston.
James Houston. Well,
like,
yeah, that's the thing.
14 snaps and 2 penalties, no tackles.
Right. So like, if you're looking to upgrade the spot of James Houston on the roster, sure.
You may not have to look further in the practice squad, though. Right. To be honest, you kept 2 guys,
right? And that's how this team operates, which is why every time we get to this, every time from like now until eternity that we get to the trade deadline, Lions fans are going to get so ramped up and be like, let's get that one guy that's going to push us over to the edge of the Super Bowl. I don't expect them to be very active unless a big injury happens. To me, it's like they have. Dan Campbell says it all the time. Our roster is not 53; it's 69. We value these guys on the practice squad, so we're not going to go out and get a guy who plays at a slightly better level than maybe one of our practice squad guys, because we'd rather bring up the practice squad guy, give him the reps, develop him, and he might not be the best right away, but eventually, come playoff time, like hopefully he's hitting on the ground running and having a late game spurt like James Houston did 2 years ago. So I don't know. Maybe I'm being naive. Maybe the Lions' strategy changes as they become better, but Brad Holmes has told us time and time again that he does not expect his overall strategy and mindset to change just because of where they are as a franchise.
No, I think he proved it too. You drafted one guy who is going to give you heavy snaps. Everybody else is rotational piece at best. I mean, just wait till their 4th rounders start getting more opportunities. Wait till Manu develops into something. Wait till you start using Vaki on more than just 4th down trick plays, right? Like there's untapped talent that's on this roster that they haven't even that they're developing, and a year or 2 could be a lot of fun.
I'm gonna say I retroactively won the Vaki bet now because he's not.
What are you talking about?
He's not playing at all now.
He played. This was the first game he didn't play an offensive snap. This was the first one. He played offensive snaps in all the other games. Just wait till they use check him, and run him on a wheel. That's it. I'm talking to him. I'm putting the bee in his bonnet now. Now when you win the bet, I will look up the play. I will send it to him. I'll send him a message because
the B gap wheel route.
Oh
yeah,
it's 6 points if you run it. Ben, it's 6 points if you run it.
Stare him right in the eyes, Ben.
That's what it is, man.
Our next question comes from Devin Windsorite on Twitter. As someone has to ask a question, Davante Adams, thoughts? I think we can blow by this one relatively quickly, but I wanted to throw it out there because people are talking about it, obviously. And the Lions are one of the few teams that if you're just looking on a pure salary cap basis, they have plenty of room for someone like Davante Adams. But I think we've talked about adding a big name, big contract type of guy in the past and talked about, well, the Lions have a lot of cap now, but they have a lot of cap for a reason. And part of that reason is, the cap hits of some of the guys they just extended are going to go up incredibly high. They're going to have to extend guys like Aiden Hutchinson and Kirby Joseph. They're going to have to re-sign some of these guys like Aleem McNeil and maybe Derek Barnes and, got a bunch of guys we just talked about in the first segment. So there's money there, but it feels like it's already earmarked for a lot of things that they want to do next offseason. So financially, it looks viable, but I think it's less viable than some people are making out to be. We just got done talking about how we like this wide receiver core 1 to 3. I don't see a need for it.
There was a time in this league, or time, a couple years back, where I had Davante Adams as my number 1 receiver in the NFL.
Same,
yep, highly talented. I still think there's plenty of juice left. If you trade for him this year, $17.5 million contract comes with him. Now it's going to be prorated, so you'll lose, some of that, but that's the value of his contract. Next year, 36.2 million. No. The year after that, 37.2 million. Nope. And you can't do that when you've already paid Amon-Ra. Now, could you cut him and so you don't have to pay 36 million? Sure, because the prorated stuff's going to stay with the Raiders. Yeah, you could. But how much are you trading, or what kind of capital are you willing to give away to acquire Davante Adams
for a 3-month rental
in order to have him for a Super Bowl run and then cut him next year before the 36 million comes in? So I don't think it's Brad Holmes style to make a trade for a guy like Davante. Is he worth it as a player? Love it. I don't think the cap makes sense. And again, is he going to be happy with Tim Patrick level of opportunities? 2 targets, 2 receptions. He can be happy with that. And if he's not, who are you taking them away from in order to give Davante more?
Yeah. A team that just put up 42 points against one of the better defenses in the league does not need to trade high draft picks and spend $30 million a year on a really good receiver.
I love him. I love him as a player. I think he'd be great. I just don't think it fits with what they're doing now or in the future.
Yep. All right. Liam Reynolds asks, every team the Lions have played thus far has been unexpectedly blown out the following week. There's a lot of largely tongue-in-cheek discussion about this, but is there anything real to read into that positively or negatively? So this is essentially referring to what I've been calling the Lions hangover. The Lions beat the Rams the following week. The Rams get blown out by, I don't remember who. The Lions
Arizona.
That's right. Yeah. The Lions lose to the Buccaneers, but then the Bucs get spanked in their only loss of the season. The following week, I don't remember who that was against either, but either way, doesn't matter. And then obviously they beat the Cardinals, who also got spanked by Washington. So, if you're a Seahawks fan, maybe you're shaking in your boots, but then again, you look at the schedule and you're playing the Giants at home.
That's a win.
That might come to an end.
I think the hangover ends this week.
Yeah. But I've mostly been treating it tongue in cheek. I generally don't take much from what happened last week affecting you the next week. Now, there is I think if there is an argument to be made here, it's the physicality, right? It's the Lions are such a physical, certainly wear you down team that maybe you're still feeling those physical effects the following week, which I think maybe there's something to that. But I think in general, this is just we're talking about 4 games of the season. We're talking literally only about 3 games the following week of each game. And I think, it's too high variance, not enough data to really believe that there's a Lions hangover effect. Now, if the Seahawks lose to the Giants this week, I might become a believer.
Now, at the same time, the Seahawks just made a West Coast trip or an East Coast trip.
True.
then they go back to the West Coast, and they're going back to the East Coast again. So there's travel that you got to factor into that as well for the Seahawks. But yeah, no, they should take care of the Giants. They should be able to take care of the Giants, no problem. And I think it's in New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I thought
not
it was in Seattle, but okay, I don't know. I could be wrong.
Okay. Regardless, well,
are you buying? Are you buying? Are you buying the Lions hangover? I'm curious.
Well, what's the spread? I mean, like, do I?
No. I forget about what's going to happen this week. Are you just buying the idea that the Lions are causing a hangover?
Yes. Yes. You know why? Because the Lions are a good team that people have put on their schedule as someone that they're going to get up for and they want to beat.
Yeah.
Like the Lions are now a team that teams are saying we can't look past them. We have to play them. And then there is a hangover that comes out of that. And so I certainly think there's some merit to it. Do I think it's going to happen to every team throughout the season? No, but I do think there's absolutely some substance behind it. Go ahead. You were going to add something.
No, I will never get over the Todd Bowles post game after their win in Detroit, where a reporter asked him, "Hey, there were some guys in the front office with tears in their eyes after beating the Lions because it was that important to them." And like that alone speaks to what you just said, right? Like that, beating the Lions, you're throwing everything at this team because you know they're really, really good. And it's important to like stop, pause, take that in and realize just how respective of a franchise the Detroit Lions are now, because it's one of those mind-blowing moments where you're like, how did we get here? But Todd Bowles' answer was so good. He's like, tell me who that is. There's no crying in week 2. but it does speak to the fact that people are spending a lot of energy trying to beat the Lions.
Look at Brad Holmes' reaction when they beat KC in week 1 the year prior. Right. It's that it can be that.
And what happened the week after that
level, but yeah.
What happened the week after that?
They had a letdown against
the Chiefs hangover
Seattle at home.
Yeah.
I
don't know. Maybe there's something to it. This is maybe a me fault, but I tend to not buy into intangibles. Like I'm not much of an intangibles guy. I'm more of a statistics look at this matchup and this matchup and this set. And I admit, like, sometimes I go in that direction to a fault. It's why I didn't think culture mattered, and I've definitely done a 180 on that. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to kind of follow that all season, right? To see how it continues to play out, because for me, three weeks worth of data is not enough for me to buy in, but if it continues, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a written in stone thing, but
yeah,
I think there's merit. There's substance here.
All right, last question here comes from a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber. That's David P., who asks, now that we're a quarter away through the season, how do you feel about the Lions draft class versus who is available that you liked? Is there any one player in the third round or later you had a draft crush on, or could have helped this team immediately? Now, I know this is going to be a tough test on your memory here, but before we jump into maybe specific guys that you would have, quote unquote, rather the Lions had drafted, let's talk about the draft class.
Yes.
Because it's early, and the Lions have gotten to a point in their franchise where they're not starting all of these guys anymore, and really you've only seen 2 of them. Mostly. I mean, you've seen Vaki on special teams, but you haven't seen a ton of Vaki. You've seen, obviously, a ton of Terion Arnold. You've seen a significant amount from Mekhi Wingo. First of all, are you liking those picks? Are you happy about how in the direction that they've gone there? Let's start there.
I do think the stuff that we've seen, even though it's been sparse, has been positive. We went into this draft thinking you're probably going to get a starter and that's it. Like we talked about that leading up to the draft, saying they're going to get one starter and everyone else is going to be a backup. And that's pretty much how it's worked out, right? Yep. Like we haven't even seen Christian Mahogany yet. Like I'm excited to see him. I didn't even see him we didn't even see him practice field yet. I think Wingo is playing a little bit better than what I was anticipating. I was anticipating a little smaller role. It's increased. Vaki's about where I expected. Manu is about where I expected, and he's got some work to do.
Right.
And Rakestraw, I think, is better. Again, like Wingo, I think he's a little bit further along. Yeah, and the injury hurts, but I do think Rakestraw progressed a little faster than I thought he would through training camp, which
Yeah.
I was happy to see. Right. And so I'm a big proponent of saying you need three outside corners if you're going to have a run, if you're going to take a run in the Super Bowl. And I think he gives them that. And yes, Robertson as well gives them that too. Meek, right?
Right.
But like, I think Ennis is a really strong candidate to give them depth, and a guy whose ceiling could be even higher than maybe we thought. So the expectations are either at or maybe even slightly above what I was expecting. And again, I don't care about the Terion flags right now. Like
Yeah.
that's just learning curve stuff, right?
Yep.
And so he's every bit of the guy I was expecting. So no, I'm not disappointed with this draft class at all. I think they're doing the things that I was expecting them to do.
Yeah. I wrote an article mildly critical of this draft class at the time, while also acknowledging that criticizing any draft class before they've played is a little bit silly. But the reason I criticized it was just because of the risk involved, right? It's the amount of trade ups that they did.
Sure.
It's the amount of investment in the future that they made, while also maybe leaving themselves a little bit vulnerable in other positions in terms of their depth. Now, I think they've done a good job rounding out the depth, and I'm not as concerned about that at the time. But the one pick that I still kind of circle and be like, very curious how this one is going to play out is the Manu one. And there's nothing that has changed from my preseason expectations to now, because how could it? I mean, he wasn't great in training camp, but that was where the expectation was. The expectation was this guy isn't going to play until 2026 at the earliest. So that's one where we just kind of have to sit on our hands and be like, well, let's wait and see. And could they have used, I don't know, a defensive lineman? Could they have used a safety there instead of Manu to round out their depth there a little bit? Because I think a lot of people highlighted safety as a depth concern all offseason. Yeah, like maybe there was a safety there that could have been a more important contributor now. But we're 4 games into the careers of all these rookies. Getting any sort of immediate contribution after anyone on day 3 by now, it means one of two things. Either your roster sucks and you're starting a day 3 pick. Now, I realize Mekhi Wingo is also a day 3 pick, so there are some exceptions to that rule. He's not starting.
Sure.
Or it means like you've somehow struck gold, which very rarely happens this early in a day 3 pick's career. So I'm not going to cast stones on anything, and I'm not going to say the line should have, because let's be honest, if you replace any one of the Lions' day 3 picks with someone else, I'm not sure there's a noticeable difference on the Lions' performance through 4 games.
I am scouring through my draft board as fast as I possibly can.
I tried to buy you some time there.
I appreciate that. So here's the thing that you have to look at is that they took Manu with pick 126. Okay. So who is a player at 126 or later that could have made an impact? And the first thing I did was I went to receivers, and there are about 20 roughly receivers that all went before pick 126. There's not a guy after 126, a receiver that would have stepped in and been wider, your X, right? Yeah. At safety, the best guy would have been like Jaden Hicks, and I don't even know what he's doing right now, to be honest. I don't know if he's starting or not. And after that, there's not really anybody that's jumping out to me. Again, all the guys that are in spots that are contributing, they're all picked before 126. I'm really going through it and trying to find it, and I don't know. And this is kind of the dilemma, I've done this. I did this before. Was when Manu got picked, I was like, who else was in the conversation for me that I would have been interested? And there was a handful of different names, but I don't know if there's anyone that would have been, like you said, making an impact on this roster this year. And so I kind of get it. Like, if you look at the guys that I had ranked, like in it high that ended up going on day 3, like much higher than I had projected. Well, again, we've probably talked about this. The two guys that stand out the most, like sore thumbs, are Christian Mahogany and Mekhi Wingo.
Right.
Like those are the guys that I had that were ranked high that ended up just sliding for X, Y, and Z reasons. But like, there's talent, but I don't think there's anybody at 126 that would have stepped in and been like, this is the guy, that they missed out on because so I get it. And I get the Wingo pick or the
Mahogany.
The Manu pick is
Manu. Yeah.
Yeah, I get the Manu pick as a little, it's tough to take a project in the 4th round, especially trading in, right? Like that's the thing I think that's the thing I think is going to hurt later is you have to look at Manu as almost not being a 4th round pick this year. You have to look at Manu as being next year and saying, okay, you just got a left tackle in the 3rd round next year, right? And that's almost how you have to look at him. But
and just Jaden Hicks went to the Chiefs. He's played 13 defensive snaps and been a 4-phase special teamer.
Thank you. He was the only guy I had like noticeably higher that went that was past 126. Everyone else, they kind of were where I kind of expected it to. I didn't think it was I didn't think it was like a shallow draft class, but I do think the top 100 there was a significant difference between the top 100 and the rest.
All right. I think we will wrap things up there. We might do a little bit overtime with our live audience, which is always a good reminder to join us live on YouTube and Twitch. Simply search Pride of Detroit on both those platforms to watch us. We do these typically between 12 and 2-ish on Tuesdays after a Sunday game. This is a Wednesday after a Monday game, but that's when you can usually catch us. If not, go ahead and listen to us on your podcast apps. And you know what? Don't forget to give us a review. We haven't gotten reviews in a while. I haven't looked in a while, to be quite honest. Maybe we have, but if you enjoy what you're hearing, make sure to leave us a review. And one final reminder, of course, too, this is a big weekend coming up the Lions bye week, but we are not taking a bye. We are having an awesome, fun watch party where now I can almost confirm to you that we are indeed going to have a couple giveaways, including one really big giveaway that I think fans are going to want to get their hands on. If you want to join us, it's at Bookies downtown Detroit, but please try an RSVP first. We're going to have a post up on Pride of Detroit pinned near the top with an Eventbrite link to RSVP. You don't get a ticket or anything. It's not a ticketed event, but it helps us prepare in terms of a head count. So if you're going to go, please go sign up on the Eventbrite. Anything else, Eric, before we get out of here?
No, enjoy a break because it's going to be a long final 13 games. It's going to be, and then plus.
That's right.
Right? You're talking about, like, if they don't get a bye in the first round, you're talking about potentially 17 to 18 weeks straight of football, Lions football. Lots of fun.
Lots of fun ahead, and we'll be here along for the ride the entire time. But until next time, that's Eric. I'm Jeremy. It's Chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
I got to shut my pool down this weekend because if I don't, it's going to be like snow on the ground and I'm going to be in trouble.
That's a good point. I think Patrick is going to be great in this offense. What do you guys think? I was very encouraged by his performance. And in fact, I think like in a month's time, we're not going to speak Josh Reynolds' name ever again.
That's sad. But
it's a little sad, but listen,
I do think
he made his choices. The Lions made his choice. Like,
yeah, and I don't think Josh's role was like life altering, but it was scheme altering, and they needed it, and it wasn't huge, but they got a guy who can do enough, right?
Yeah.
And
I think he can do everything that Josh Reynolds can do, and outside of like the two big plays that he made, catching the ball, that dude showed again he's an extremely willing blocker. It was shown on Was it Dan Orlovsky's? No.
Orlovsky.
Was it Orlovsky's play? Listen, it is what it is.
next week, we're because they're coming off the bye, their schedule may not be the same as it is on a normal week. So we may have to adjust. Well, I wasn't trying to give away that we know that it will be because we're not supposed to say anything.
We're not saying what the schedule is, but it's not a normal schedule.
But I am saying our Tuesday, our mailbag next week might be at a later time, like in the evening type of thing.
It'll either be Tuesday night or Wednesday afternoon.
No, it can't be.
What do you mean?
Look at your Wednesday. Oh, you're saying because. Yeah, all right. I get what you're saying.
We're only tied up in the morning on Wednesday.
Yeah, right. I get what you're saying. Okay.
Okay, good question from Lost Ocean, who has defected to YouTube after being a Twitch loyal. It says, how will the team sprinkle Allen Robinson with Tim Patrick solidifying wide receiver 3?
He's wide receiver 5, and
so he won't play. Essentially, he'll play as much as he played on Monday.
Yeah, like he might get if he gets double-digit snaps, something went wrong probably. Yeah. To be honest, like that's just a backup. That's how they use wide receiver 5.
He's a backup.
That's a good backup.
2 roles, right? Like he's not just going to be the wide receiver X. Like he'll be in JMO's role if they need it.
Yeah, certainly, and he can block. So. Yeah, there's something there. Like it's a nice insurance policy. I'm much happier that they picked both guys up.
Yeah,
I was very happy.
I mean, the depth looked like from a month ago to now. I can't feel any more confident than I expected to. Like Tim Patrick fell into their damn laps. Thank you, Denver.
Yes. Well, look, this is the league now, right? The league is getting saturated with wide receivers because that's spread offenses in college galore. And when I talked about the fact that there was like 20 wide receivers that came out, in the top 100 picks, I don't think that's changing.
No.
Right?
Right.
And so that's all the more reason to not want to have to pay a wide receiver $36 million unless they are clearly wide receiver 1 and clearly elite, which you have on the roster already, and you've already paid him the money that he deserves. So, yeah, it's a
good situation to be. Lost Ocean says, still Twitch loyal. My work just blocked Twitch. What work is blocking Twitch but not YouTube?
Quit.
That's weird. Just quit. Just quit. Detroit asked if we do this with the Manu pick, what are your thoughts on a different pick from Hendon Hooker the previous year?
Oh. Now I got to go pull up my...
Your 2023 draft board?
People asked about Broderick. Like the same thing was brought up. People were like, they could have had someone better than Broderick, right? Let me see if I have the results. I do.
They work for YouTube. That would be funny.
What's that?
Chad is guessing that the person works for YouTube.
First of all, I'm going to pick Broderick because I love taking Hendon Hooker where he is. Okay. Like, I think taking Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round and getting a valuable backup quarterback with upside. Don't get me on a backup quarterback rant because, like, the value of a backup quarterback, it's amazing to me.
Well, maybe you can just pick up a Malik Willis off.
I'm already going. The quarterback's the most valuable position in the NFL. You don't need a backup, though. Forget those guys. If they're not going to play, you don't need to pay. You need guys. You need talent. All right. So I'm completely fine with taking a 3rd round pick on Hendon Hooker. All right. Who did better?
Wasn't that second? Late second?
3rd. No.
Late second.
It was a 3rd round pick. 368. Early 3rd.
Oh, you're right. Sorry.
But I'll give you Broderick Martin at 96. So let's look at guys who got drafted after pick 100 and see if we like someone.
Excuse me, I'm very sleepy now. Still working back from getting my catching up on sleep from getting home at 3.
Dude.
I got home at 3 that night.
So did I.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I left like
just before.
a half an hour or 45 minutes after you did.
So the roads were empty as I left the state. First of all, the parking garage that I have to go to takes me about 17 times longer to get to my car than it does yours. And it was a new parking garage. Okay. And so the parking garage spans itself over 2 blocks. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Corey Woods and I get off the bus. They drop us off at the one side of the garage. And we are both parked in elevator A, which is at 2 blocks down. So we walk all the way down, not all the way, but we walk down 2 blocks, go around the corner and in to the hotel to get to the access, but they shut it down at like 10 o'clock at night. So now we have to walk back all the way back to the spot that we just were. And then when we get there, we have to then walk another block through the middle to get to the other side because that's where the garage, that's where the elevators are for some reason. So then we get in there and we have to work our way up. Then we have to walk all the way back across the garage again to get to that spot. Then Corey gets off at one level. I get off at the next. As I'm driving down, Corey can't find his car because it's a freaking maze. And so I pick him up and I drive him around the garage to find his car. So by the time I actually exited the parking garage, you might have already been in your cushy little Tigers parking lot car and on your way home. And I'm still in a cement maze cornfield perched on top of a structure in downtown Detroit trying to figure my way out. So yeah, so I got home around 3 or a little bit before, but
This woe is me. This woe is me, and you trying to like paint yourself as like the working man. I had to work through the cornfields of these mazes while you got to be in your cushy little suite.
Let's alternate spots each week. You want to do that? You want to alternate spots each week? Sounds good to me. Let's see how you enjoy.
I don't trust you with a virtual parking spot ticket.
Oh,
I don't think you can handle the technology. Project Martin.
Yeah. All right. Let me get back to my. Let me get on task, since I'm the working man.
You were very ranty today.
Yeah, I know. It's because I haven't got enough sleep. like.
Yeah, I heard you had some parking problems. Can you get into that a little bit more?
Let me tell you about it. Okay. Because they've tried
stop it. Stop it right now. Stop it right now.
Since last Monday, this is the Monday night game last year. I've parked in 4 different garages that they jumped us through. Cars setting on fire, closing garages. Like it's a mess. All right. Cheese Pete's. I'm looking for guys. I'm through the offense. I don't see anybody that's like jumping out. Anthony Bradford. I really liked Anthony Bradford, who is the he just started against which team is he playing for?
Oh.
Anthony Bradford. He's a starter on one.
Sam Bradford?
No, he's terrible. Anthony Bradford. The Seahawks. Yeah.
Oh,
right. Yeah, he's a Seahawks starting right guard. I like it. I liked him a lot. Power blocker with gap experience. Like, I would have liked Anthony Bradford instead of Broderick Martin.
There you go. Answering a question that technically wasn't even asked. Good job.
No, it was asked.
No, they asked about Hendon Hooker, and you're just like, no, I'm not answering that one. Let me answer
because
a question
I like
that you
Hendon
didn't
Hooker pick. Because look, there's a couple of buttons that I have that have been pushed today. So the Hooker being that was a very acceptable pick. If you are getting stressed out about the Lions spending 3rd round picks on backups, then you're going to be stressed out.
You're going to hate the next decade of drafts.
Yeah, because yes, Because at this point, the second rounders aren't even guaranteed anything at this point. Like the days of drafting, playing 4 rookies are probably gone. That ended a year ago when you, with your Gibbs, Laporta, Branch, Campbell class. That was it. You shouldn't have that ever again. And if you do, it's probably because you've gone through injuries or something like that, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
JT Sam, we actually, if you weren't here earlier during our first break, we went through literally all 3 big run plays and kind of diagnosed what the issue was for each. In short, the first one, it was probably Terion Arnold who took a bad angle or didn't fill his right gap.
He didn't contain.
Yeah. The second was just a mixture of bad tackling. And then the third one was a lot going on. Part of it, you just tip your cap to Kenneth Walker for finding a cutback lane. So, Branch would have helped a little bit because I think on a couple of those there were missed tackles from Brandon Joseph, but I think in general I'm not. We collectively decided that we're not very concerned about the quote unquote bad run defense. Who's the first drafted starter on a rookie contract that doesn't get extended? Ooh.
Hold on. Say that again.
Drafted starter on a rookie contract that doesn't get extended.
Okay. It's hard because are they as in their current starter or as if they were a starter right when they were drafted? Because I might change my answer.
Well, let's talk through it. It's an interesting question. I feel like I have to go pull up the Lions draft history to make sure I answer it correctly. I think we can agree that Aleem and Hutchinson are going to get paid. I'm a little bit.
Is Pascal a starter? Is he technically a starter?
He is right now. I don't think he necessarily falls into that category. I think they're going to re-sign Kirby.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Derek Barnes, I think he could be looking for more maybe than what they're willing.
Derek Barnes to me is where the conversation starts, and even calling him a starter is this year for the first time.
He's a half starter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he started at Mike part of half the year last year too.
Right.
So. Because I do think they're gonna keep. Yeah, I mean, Branch is a guy they're gonna overpay. Like they're just blank check Branch at some point in my mind.
Maybe JMO. Like I don't if things come crashing down to earth with JMO, maybe if he wants a lot of money, I think there's a chance.
Got a couple more years before that decision needs to happen too. So So they're saying who's the first guy? I think the first one that's most vulnerable is Derek Barnes.
Yeah, which is next offseason, right? He's
right because he's in his contract right now.
Yep.
I don't think you could. I mean, you could maybe Levi because the cost of a defensive tackle, but I don't know. Like he's in the same boat. He's a part-time starter who they really like. But
I don't want to throw JMO into the conversation that much, but I think it's an interesting conversation that they're going to have in a couple of years.
It's a pricey position.
It's a pricey position
that's just
And we just talked about how prolific the college ranks are with really good wide receivers.
Right.
So it's if he's an interesting one too. I think they like Iffy a lot.
He's not a starter though. He's not a starter.
Yeah. I just think Iffy is an interesting extension conversation. Because I think they like him a lot.
Certainly.
Well, actually I'm not entirely sure if they like him a lot. I think when I think he's a good fit for what they want. I am starting to wonder, maybe Dan Campbell
talked about DeAndre Swift,
right?
Which is a little scary,
right? Exactly. And if there's one thing that we kind of know about this coaching staff, and the one thing that's a little bit they're not as nice as you think they are. It's with injuries, right? Like there's some of these guys that have had long injury history with this team, and they don't have a lot of patience for them. And like when Deuce Staley comes out and says like you have to play through hurt, but not when you're injured.
Right. So let's clarify something here. It's not necessarily that if a player is injured, because Levi is a guy they absolutely love and he's been injured.
True.
But it's more about how injured they are, or what they're willing to do. And as a player, a guy like Swift was slow to return, and he wouldn't return until he was 100%, which is totally his prerogative because running back careers are short. And so if he wants to do that, that's great. And right now it seems to be working real well. Got paid in Philly, but then Philly wasn't interested in re-signing him, and now he got paid in Chicago, and Chicago seems to be very uninterested, or the fans are very uninterested in how he's playing right now. And so it might be what's best for his career, and you can't fault that. At the same time, the coaches, they have a job to do. They have expectations, and if they feel like you're at a point where you could play and you are not, then that's got to be frustrating for them because their jobs are on the line as well. And with Iffy, you could have put him on IR right off the bat and gotten another player in that spot. By now.
Right, and he'd be cleared.
Yeah, and he could come back whenever he's ready.
Right.
But instead now, you're putting him in now, and now you've lost him for a minimum of the first 7 weeks, or first 7 games, 8 weeks of the season. So now you've lost him for half the season because you didn't put him on early enough. Is it a slow recovering injury? Absolutely. Is it one that maybe he's waiting until he's fully healthy? Maybe.
Yeah.
And again, that's totally his prerogative. His brother was like that. And his brother had a lot of injuries and was like, that's kind of the route his brother took. But again, totally understand that. You have a short shelf life in the NFL. Right. Maximize it.
Yep. And I'm just like, there is kind of this running thread of players that have been like that the Lions have seemingly publicly soured on.
Yeah.
Like Swift is
one. And
they're
not going to do it publicly unless they feel comfortable in that
stance. Unless they're trying to light a fire, right?
Right.
And another beat writer reminded me of this because we were having a very similar conversation. Jonah Jackson was like that. Jonah Jackson was a guy who had a lot of injuries, and I don't remember specifically what was said, but I remember there was a specific day where it almost seemed like Dan was calling him out a little bit. It's like, and we don't see that a ton from Dan, but it does feel very intentional when he does it.
Yeah.
And he dropped one of those with Iffy on Friday or Saturday or whatever, where it was just like someone asked him like, what's going on with Iffy? Is there any more clarity on what's going on with him? And he goes, no.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that was it. And like you can read into like, if you have the Dan Campbell translator, that is very much the joke of like, he's in the room type of thing, where it's just like,
that's who was the it's in the room guy. The receiver, Mims.
Was it Mims?
Denzel Mims. They were like, he was, high pick. Everybody was excited for him. He seemed to be, he was down, and then all of a sudden he was trending up, and then he got injured, and then it was like, is he going to play? And then they're like, yeah, he's in the room. And that was like, okay, he's done.
Right.
We'll take him out of your 53s.
Yep. And so I'm starting to get some of those vibes with Iffy. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I'm starting to get some of those vibes.
Work ethic, right? It's about work ethic. It's about mentality. Yeah. It goes back to what you were talking about with character.
Yep.
Levi, and as Aliens pointing out, Vaitai, Mosley.
Yep.
These are guys that work their tails off and contribute in other ways, and they're trying to get back, and they just weren't able. Like Vaitai just never could.
Yeah.
Like Vaitai was a huge mentor for Panay. Like he was a guy that Panay looked up to. He was a mauling right guard, which is exactly what they wanted, right? And so, but he just couldn't get right. But he tried, and he tried coming back, and he tried being that guy, and he just couldn't.
Yep.
And it looked like Levi was headed that same direction, and now all of a sudden Levi's got it right, and all of a sudden, boom. Frank, everyone was worried about Frank and his inoperable toe, but Frank plays through broken throats and stuff like that, and he's But I mean, like,
And I mean, let's be clear too. Like, we don't have any direct evidence that this is the case with Iffy. That
No.
he's not willing to put in the work to get back on the field. We have
Yeah, he could
zero
have a
evidence of that,
setback.
and I would not. I'm not trying to speculate that that's the case with him. It's just to me the vibes that you got from Dan Campbell from literally that one press conference was like something's not right here. Frustration, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, look, he easily could have had a setback. And that's why he goes on IR now instead of going on IR in week 1.
No question.
But again, as a coach, that's got to be frustrating.
Yeah.
Because you only get so many spots and you're just using one on a guy that's just not there.
Right.
Now, they haven't filled that spot, which I think is also interesting to point out. Makes me wonder if it's Christian Mahogany time, maybe? You're going to start his clock?
He start his clock, but he doesn't need... you're not...
Right, so you don't
he's not
need
going to
it?
play for at least 3 weeks, right?
Could be,
Probably.
Practice squad guy. Could be... I was surprised it wasn't O'Connor.
Yeah. We were speculating. We were all pretty confident Pat O'Connor was going to play on Monday. And then
Yes, very much. And then they were like, yeah, just kidding. No one. We're good. We'll play one short.
Yeah. We'll beat the Seahawks with a hand behind our back. Who cares?
Oh, I'm so glad they won.
Yeah, we can joke. It's fun. We didn't even have a full roster, and y'all can't beat us.
It's such a different. It's such a different bye week.
Oh yeah, a 2-2 bye week versus a 3-1 bye week, entirely different. And that was going through my head all of Sunday, all of Monday. I'm like, please just win this one, so that we can have 10 days of like good vibes about the Lions. Especially considering like the vibe for a 2-1 team, the vibes were not good.
Alien brings up another one, the Aquaras. Romeo, they like Romeo. Yeah, and they brought Romeo back even after the Achilles, which is I think a good indicator of what they liked of him. Not so much with Julian.
Yeah.
Like with Julian, I don't think they liked what he did or how he worked, and it just didn't work out with Julian. It was kind of a square peg, round hole type of situation.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, it is past 2:30, which means it's Tigers time.
Game time.
So I'm gonna let y'all go there, enjoy the Tigers. Let's see if they can close out the wild card move to the ALDS. Is that right? I think that's right. I'm trying to flex my baseball knowledge, which is minimal. When we were setting up our bye week event, at some point I'm like, oh shit, is this gonna turn into a Tigers watch party?
You're okay.
And I'm like, it's crazy because playoff baseball has their entire schedule already mapped out. Like, when every single game is going to be played already. And I don't think the other sports are like that, because you could have every team sweep in 4 games and then get going. Maybe it is like that, and I just don't know. But either way, the NLDS is scheduled to be played on Sunday this upcoming week, not the ALDS. So there won't be any Tigers games. No Tigers conflict. But anyways, go Tigers. We'll be back in a while. It's going to be a little bit. No, I'm going to take a little time off away from home, so there won't be like a man sim or anything like that on stream this week. And we might be back with a POD cast on Monday. We won't do it Sunday because of the event, but we'll see. All right. I think that's all I got. Thanks for all the support, y'all. We hope to see as many of you as possible on Sunday at Bookies in downtown Detroit to watch some of the 1 p.m.